My name is Vivian Blackwood, and I'm 71 years old. Last month, my daughters tried to put me in a nursing home. Instead, I put myself in a villa overlooking the Tuscan hills. They wanted my assets. I gave them a lesson in what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. It was a Thursday evening when they staged their intervention. I was in my library reading a first edition of Pride and Prejudice when I heard two cars pull into the driveway. Strange, neither Caroline nor Jessica had mentioned visiting. They entered without knocking, as they always did, treating my home like their personal estate in waiting. "Mother," Caroline said, her voice dripping with false concern. "We need to talk." Jessica was already appraising the Tiffany lamp, probably calculating its resale value. She'd been doing that a lot lately, running her fingers over my belongings like a pawnbroker. "How lovely to see you both," I said, marking my page, though a phone call would have been nice. This couldn't wait. Caroline settled into the leather wingback chair across from me, my late husband Arthur's chair. No one else had sat in it since he passed 5 years ago, but Caroline had no reverence for such things. "We're worried about you," Jessica added, perching on the sofa arm, designer bag strategically placed. "Living alone in this big house, at your age." "I'm 71, not 171, I observed. "And I manage quite well." "You fell last month," Caroline said accusingly. "I tripped over the cat once and caught myself on the banister." "But what if next time you don't?" Jessica leaned forward. "What if something happens and no one's here?" I studied my daughters, really looked at them. Caroline, 45, a real estate agent who'd been circling my Victorian home like a shark since the housing market boomed. Jessica, 42, an interior designer who'd been mentally redecorating my rooms for years. Neither had visited for my birthday 2 months ago, or Easter, or any day that wasn't somehow connected to their financial interests. "What are you suggesting?" I asked, though I already knew. Caroline pulled out a glossy brochure, Golden Sunset Manor. It's the premier assisted living facility in the state. They have an opening. I took the brochure, flipping through photos of beige rooms and forced smiles. "How thoughtful." "You'll love it," Jessica gushed. "They have activities, medical staff, 3 meals a day." "And what happens to the house?" I asked innocently. They exchanged glances. Caroline cleared her throat. "Well, we need to liquidate your assets to pay for your care. The house, the antiques, your jewelry collection." "My money?" "Everything," Jessica said quickly. "But we'd handle all of that for you. You wouldn't have to worry about a thing." "And my investment portfolio?" "We'd manage that too," Caroline added. "Power of attorney would transfer to us, of course. For your protection." I smiled. "How efficient. You thought of everything." "We've already put down a deposit," Jessica said. "You can move in next week." "Next week?" I set down the brochure. You have been busy." "It's for your own good, Mother." Caroline's tone had an edge now. "You're not getting younger. And frankly, this house is too much for you." "Is it?" I stood walking to the window overlooking my garden. "Tell me, when did you decide I was too feeble to live my own life?" "Don't be dramatic," Jessica sighed. "This is what's best." "Best for whom?" I turned to face them. "Because from where I'm standing, it seems best for 2 daughters who want their inheritance early." Caroline's face flushed. "How dare you? When was the last time either of you visited without wanting something?" I interrupted. "Caroline, you've been after me to sell this house for years. Jessica, you've had your eye on my grandmother's pearl necklace since you were 16. This isn't about money," Jessica protested. "Isn't it?" I walked to my desk, pulling out a folder. "Funny how your concern for my well-being coincided with the housing market peak. And Jessica, didn't your husband's restaurant just fail? Again." Silence. "We're trying to help you," Caroline said stiffly. "No, dear, you're trying to help yourselves." I smiled sweetly. "But I understand, really, I do, which is why I'm going to make this easy for everyone." "You'll go to Golden Sunset." Jessica perked up. "Oh, I'm definitely going to a new home," I said. "In fact, this is wonderful timing. I've been thinking about making some changes." They relaxed visibly, probably already calculating their profits. "When can we start organizing the estate sale?" Caroline asked. "Oh, no need," I said cheerfully. "I'll handle everything myself. You girls run along now. I have phone calls to make." They left reluctantly, but pleased. I watched their cars disappear down the drive, then picked up my phone. Harrison? I said when my lawyer answered. It's Vivian. Remember that plan we discussed? It's time. For the next 6 days, I worked with the precision of a general planning a campaign. Harrison had been preparing for this possibility since Arthur died, when the girls had first started their vulture circling. First, the house. I'd already had it quietly appraised, $3.2 million for a Victorian in perfect condition with historical designation. But I didn't sell it to the highest bidder. Instead, I sold it to the Historical Preservation Society for $1, with the stipulation that it be turned into a museum showcasing local history. The contract was ironclad. It could never be sold or converted to private residence. Next, the antiques. Instead of an estate sale, I donated everything to various museums. The Tiffany lamps went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The complete Chippendale dining set went to Winterthur. My grandmother's pearls? The Smithsonian was delighted to add them to their American jewelry collection. Each donation came with a small plaque, gift of Vivian Blackwood in memory of Arthur Blackwood, who believed beautiful things should be shared with the world. The cars, Arthur's vintage Bentley and my Mercedes, went to a charity auction benefiting underprivileged youth programs. My jewelry collection followed suit, raising nearly $1 million for women's shelters across the state. The money? I've been in quiet negotiations with the Musée d'Orsay for months. They were thrilled to finally acquire water lilies at sunset for their permanent collection. My investment portfolio required more finesse. I liquidated everything: stocks, bonds, mutual funds. After setting aside a comfortable sum for my own needs, I distributed the rest: $2 million to Doctors Without Borders, $2 million to educational charities, $1.5 million to environmental causes, and another $2 million split among local animal shelters, food banks, and homeless services. But I saved the best for last. I withdrew $50,000 in cash and spent an afternoon in the garden with a shovel. In dozens of locations, under the rose bushes, beneath the oak tree, behind the garden shed, I buried sealed packages containing $1,000 each. Then I created an elaborate treasure map, complete with riddles and clues, and mailed it to the local orphanage with a note: for the children who still believe in magic. Happy hunting. On the 7th day, the day my daughters planned to move me to Golden Sunset, I stood in my empty house one last time. Everything was gone except for one suitcase and a letter on the mantel. My phone buzzed. A text from my new property manager in Tuscany, with photos of the villa I purchased 6 months ago, when I first suspected my daughter's plans: 3 bedrooms, a working vineyard, and a view of the hills that would make any soul sing. My flight was in 4 hours. I heard the moving truck before I saw it, followed by both my daughters' cars. I smiled, straightened my traveling suit, and walked out the front door. Caroline stepped out first, her face glowing with anticipation. Then she saw my suitcase. "Mother? Why are you?" Her voice trailed off as she noticed the Sold sign on the lawn. "What's going on?" Jessica demanded, jumping from her car. "Oh, didn't I mention?" I said pleasantly. "I took your advice. I'm moving to a new home." "But, Golden Sunset. Lovely place," I agreed. "But I found something better. Tuscany has the most wonderful senior communities. Active ones, where people live life instead of waiting to die." Caroline was staring at the house in horror. "You sold it. When? To whom?" "Tuesday, to the Historical Preservation Society. They're turning it into a museum. Isn't that wonderful? Arthur would have loved that." "You can't do that," Jessica shrieked. "That house is worth millions." "Was worth millions," I corrected. "Now it's worth something far more, a legacy that isn't about money." The moving truck driver approached, looking confused. "We're here for the pickup." "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding," I told him. "The house is empty. But here." I handed him an envelope. "For your trouble. And might I suggest you send these ladies a bill?" Caroline was frantically calling someone on her phone. "Get me Harrison Blackwood. Now." "He's in court," I said helpfully, "but he left a message for you both. Something about the legal definition of elder abuse and financial exploitation. He seemed quite passionate about it." Jessica was walking through the house in a daze. Her heels clicked on the empty floors, echoing through rooms that no longer held a lifetime of treasures. "Where is everything?" she whispered. "Gone," I said simply. Donated to museums, charities, people who will appreciate them for their beauty, not their price tags. Your jewelry? The cars? The money? Caroline's voice was rising with each word. All gone, well, except for this. I touched the simple gold band on my finger, Arthur's wedding ring that I'd had sized to fit me. This goes with me. You gave away our inheritance. Jessica looked like she might faint. Your inheritance? I laughed, and it felt wonderful. My dears, inheritance is what you receive when someone dies. I'm very much alive. This was my money, my property, my life, and I chose to share it with the world. We'll contest this, Caroline threatened. We'll prove you're mentally incompetent. Try, I said cheerfully. Harrison has a lovely file documenting my mental acuity, recent tests, video depositions, multiple witness statements. He also has recordings of some very interesting conversations between you two about your plans for my estate. Amazing what people say when they think no one's listening. They stared at me, finally seeing me not as their feeble mother, but as the woman who'd built this fortune alongside their father, who'd raised them, who'd given them everything except, apparently, the wisdom to value love over money. Where will you live? Jessica asked weakly. Tuscany, to start. Then maybe the French Riviera, or Greece. I've always wanted to see Santorini. I checked my watch. Speaking of which, my taxi should be here any moment. This is insane, Caroline said. You're 71 years old. Exactly, I said. Which means I probably have 20 good years left. Maybe 30. Gran will live to 98. Why would I spend them in a beige room playing bingo and waiting to die when I could be living? The taxi pulled up right on time. Wait, Jessica grabbed my arm. What about us? I looked at my daughters, really looked at them. Somewhere under the greed and entitlement were the little girls I'd raised. But those girls had made their choices long ago. You'll be fine, I said gently. You both have careers, homes, husbands. You have everything you need. You just don't have what you wanted, my money. You're abandoning us, Caroline said bitterly. No, dear, I'm setting us all free. You from the burden of waiting for me to die, and me from the prison of pretending I don't know that's what you're doing. I kissed them both on the cheek, tasting salt from Jessica's tears. Then I got in the taxi. The airport, please, I told the driver. As we pulled away, I saw them in the rearview mirror, standing in front of the empty house, the moving truck forgotten, their carefully laid plans in ruins around them. I pulled out the letter I'd left on the mantel and read my copy one more time. My dear daughters, by the time you read this, I'll be on my way to my new life. Thank you for the inspiration. When you suggested I needed a new home, you were absolutely right. I just chose a different one than you had in mind. I want you to know that I love you, despite everything. I loved you as babies, as children, as young women starting your lives. But somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing me as your mother and started seeing me as your bank account. So I've removed the temptation. The money is gone, donated to causes that will use it to help others. The house will educate future generations. The treasures will bring joy to millions in museums around the world. What I've kept is enough for me to live comfortably, travel widely, and die with dignity when my time comes, on my terms, not yours. I hope someday you'll understand that what I've given you is worth more than any inheritance. The knowledge that your mother lived life fully until the very end, and the opportunity to love me as a person, not a portfolio. If you want to find me, I'll be the one raising a glass of Chianti to the Tuscan sunset, wearing grandmother's ring, the only jewelry I kept, and living like there's no tomorrow. Because at 71, tomorrow isn't guaranteed, but today is mine. With love and absolutely no regrets. Mother. P.S. Check the garden. I left a surprise for the local children. Try not to ruin their fun. The taxi driver met my eyes in the mirror. Good day, ma'am. The best, I said, meaning it, and they're only going to get better. My phone buzzed with incoming calls. Caroline, Jessica, probably their husbands by now. I turned it off and dropped it in my purse. There would be time for reconciliation later, if they ever learned to love me more than my money. But that was their journey to make. Mine was just beginning. At the airport, I checked my single suitcase and walked to the international terminal. I packed light, a few clothes, photos of Arthur, my passport, and a heart full of possibilities. The gate agent smiled as she scanned my boarding pass. Tuscany is beautiful this time of year. Perfect, I said. I'm going home. She looked confused. My ticket was clearly one way from America to Italy, but she didn't understand. Home isn't where you're from or where your things are. Home is where you choose to live, really live. My daughters had wanted to put me in a home, someplace safe and quiet where I could wait to die without inconveniencing them. Instead, I put myself in the greatest home of all, the wide, wonderful world. As the plane lifted off, I pressed my face to the window, watching the city shrink below. Somewhere down there, 2 women were probably still standing in an empty house, raging at the unfairness of it all. But up here, above the clouds, heading toward a new life at 71, I felt nothing but gratitude. They'd given me the push I needed to stop existing and start living. Champagne? The flight attendant offered. Absolutely, I said. I'm celebrating. Special occasion. I smiled, thinking of the villa waiting for me, the adventures to come, the life I was about to live on my own terms. Yes, I said, raising my glass to the window, to the sky, to the future. I'm going home.
The check felt heavy in my hands. $3,000 made out to my sister Lana, with a sticky note attached that read, "For the daughter I deserve." My fingers trembled as I stared at my mother's flowing handwriting, the same handwriting that had signed countless excuses for Lana's school absences while I maintained perfect attendance. "I'm Emerson, and I just found this check while organising my mother's purse, something I've been doing daily since her hip surgery 6 weeks ago. The same surgery that had me taking unpaid leave from work, sleeping on her uncomfortable couch, and managing her medication schedule while Lana posted Instagram stories from wine tastings. Emmy, can you bring me my pain pills?" Mom's voice carried from her bedroom, right on schedule. "Coming," I called back, quickly tucking the check into my pocket. The familiar weight of responsibility settled onto my shoulders as I counted out 2 white tablets. My phone buzzed. A text from Kennedy, my roommate. "Girl, when are you coming home? Your plants miss you, I miss you, and that second job you took to cover your mom's deductible," they called again. I ignored it, walking into Mom's room with her pills and water. She lay propped up against her pillows, scrolling through her phone. "Oh, did you see Lana's latest post?" She turned her screen toward me, beaming. "She's thinking about starting a lifestyle blog. Isn't she just incredible?" I forced a smile. "Incredible. Have you seen my checkbook? I need to send Lana some money for her blog startup costs." The check in my pocket felt like it was burning. "You already wrote her a check," I said carefully. "I saw it in your purse." "Oh, good. Can you mail it for me? She's so brave, following her dreams like this." My phone buzzed again. This time it was my boss from the coffee shop, where I picked up weekend shifts. "Need you to cover tomorrow morning," Sandra called out. "Actually, Mom," I said, "I was wondering if you could help me with something." She looked up, distracted. My car needs repairs. The timing belt's going. It's about 3,000. "Oh, Emmy," she cut me off, sighing. "You know money's tight right now with my medical bills. Maybe if you'd finished college like Lana, you'd have a better job with better pay." I bit my tongue. I'd dropped out to help pay for Lana's study abroad semester in Paris. "Speaking of bills," Mom continued, "did you call the insurance company about my physical therapy coverage?" "Yes, and I paid the copay." "With my credit card, again. What would I do without you?" She reached for my hand. "You're so good at handling all these practical things." Practical things, like working 60-hour weeks, like sleeping on a lumpy couch while Lana's perfectly made childhood bedroom sat empty down the hall. Like watching my savings disappear while my sister got checks with sticky notes calling her the daughter my mother deserved. My phone buzzed a third time. Kennedy again. "Found an old letter from your dad while cleaning. Looks important. Should I open it?" Something snapped inside me. "I need to run some errands," I said, standing up abruptly. "Your next dose is in 4 hours. There's soup in the fridge." I walked out before she could respond, the check still in my pocket. In my car, I pulled it out and stared at it again. $3,000. The exact amount my car repairs would cost. My hands moved before my brain could catch up. I took a photo of the check and the sticky note. Then I opened my banking app and hit deposit check. The confirmation screen blinked at me. Deposit successful. My phone lit up with a text from Lana. Mum says she sent me money for my blog. Can't wait to start building my brand. You should follow me when it launches. Maybe I can teach you how to be more like me. I turned off my phone and drove to Kennedy's apartment. She opened the door before I could knock. Em, what's wrong? You look... I just deposited Lana's check into my account, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Kennedy's eyes widened. You what? $3,000, the exact amount I've spent on Mom's care this month. I walked past her into the apartment. Where's that letter you found? Em, wait, are you sure about this? Your mom will... A sharp knock at the door cut her off. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers standing in the hallway. Kennedy grabbed my arm. Tell me you at least have proof of everything you've spent on them. I smiled, pulling out my phone. Oh, Kennedy, I have receipts for everything. The knocking came again, louder this time. Good, Kennedy said, squeezing my hand, because I think you're going to need them. I walked to the door, my heart pounding, but my steps steady. Sometimes being the practical daughter had its advantages. After all, practical daughters keep receipts. Miss, we're here about a reported theft, the taller officer said as I opened the door. May we come in? I stepped aside, gesturing to our living room. Of course. Would either of you like coffee? I'm a barista. I make a mean latte. The officers exchanged glances. No, thank you. We're here because your mother reported a stolen check. Ah. I walked to my laptop, opening it calmly. Before we continue, I'd like to show you something. Kennedy hovered nearby as I pulled up my banking records. These are Venmo transactions from the past 3 months, I explained, turning the screen toward them. My mother used my credit card for $7,800 in personal purchases. Here's her spa day last week, $420. Here's the Uber rides she ordered for my sister, $380 total. The female officer leaned forward, studying the screen. And you authorized these charges? No. She had my card information from when I was paying her medical bills. I pulled up a folder of screenshots. Here are texts from her admitting she used it without asking. The officers read through the messages. Emmy, I borrowed your card for a few things. Lana needed some self-care time. Don't worry about the charges. You're so good with money. You're the only one I can count on. Lana never had a maternal bone in her body. There's more, I said, opening another folder. Here are the receipts from her hip surgery recovery. I paid $4,200 in medical bills, took 6 weeks unpaid leave to care for her, and worked a second job to cover expenses. Meanwhile, my sister received regular checks like this one. The taller officer frowned. Did you have permission to deposit the check? The check was compensation for services rendered. I pulled out a handwritten list. Here's everything I've spent on my mother's care. The total is actually $8,400. I have receipts for every item. Kennedy stepped forward. I can verify everything she's saying. I've watched her drain her savings, taking care of them. The female officer took notes while her partner made a call. I could hear my mother's voice through his phone, growing increasingly shrill. Mum, he said into the phone, your daughter has provided extensive documentation of expenses paid on your behalf. The amount exceeds the check in question. Unless you'd like to pursue charges and have all of this examined in court. There was a long pause. I understand. Yes, we'll tell her. He hung up and turned to me. Your mother has decided not to press charges. I thought she might not, I said quietly. After the officers left, Kennedy grabbed 2 wine glasses. That was badass, but you're not done, are you? No. I opened my email, showing her a message from the family attorney, Eric. Remember how Dad always said he'd taken care of us before he died? I think there's more to this story. What do you mean? Look at these old bank statements I found. There are regular transfers to an account marked LR, Lana Reynolds, but Dad's trust was supposed to be split equally. Kennedy's eyes widened. Your mum's been playing favourites with your dad's money. Looks like it. I took a long sip of wine. And I'm going to find out exactly how much she's been hiding. My phone buzzed with a text from Lana. "Mum's hysterical. How dare you go to the police after everything she's done for you?" I showed Kennedy the message and started typing a response, but she grabbed my phone. "No, don't give them anything else tonight. You need a strategy." "I have one." I pulled out the folder of receipts. "Mum always taught us to keep records of everything. Funny how that lesson's coming back to haunt her." Kennedy poured more wine. "What's your next move?" "I'm meeting Eric tomorrow. He said there are some irregularities in Dad's trust that don't add up." "And then?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then I'm going to show my mother exactly what kind of daughter she deserves." My phone lit up again, Mom calling. I declined the call and opened my texts instead, sending one message to our family group chat. "Dear family, I've been keeping receipts. Not just for money, for everything. Who wants to see them?" Kennedy read over my shoulder and whistled. "You're really doing this." "They wanted the good daughter," I said, watching the typing bubbles appear in the group chat. "But good daughters document everything." The first response came from my mother. "Emmy, delete this now. We need to talk privately." I turned off my phone and raised my wine glass. "No, Mom. We're done talking privately. Let's see how your story holds up when everyone's watching." Kennedy clinked her glass against mine. "To receipts. To receipts," I echoed, "and to daughters who know how to use them." The truth was, I'd spent years being the reliable one, the practical one, the good daughter. But sometimes good daughters make the best enemies, because we keep everything on record. The storage unit smelled like dust and forgotten promises. Kennedy held her phone's flashlight while I dug through boxes labelled Dad's office. After 3 hours of searching, my hands were filthy, but I finally found what I was looking for. A sealed envelope with my name written in my father's handwriting. "Are you going to open it?" Kennedy asked, perching on a nearby box. My hands shook as I broke the seal. The letter was dated 2 weeks before his death. "My dearest Emmy, if you're reading this, I've failed to tell you the truth in person. I've watched you become the responsible one, the caretaker, while your mother enabled Lana's worst behaviours. I should have stopped it. The truth is, your mother's manipulation didn't start with you girls. She's always been skilled at twisting situations to her advantage. I set up trusts for both of you, equal amounts meant for education and housing, but I fear she'll find a way around my wishes, just like she did with everything else. I'm so proud of you, Emmy. You have a strength that neither your mother nor sister possesses. Don't let them dim your light. Love, Dad." Kennedy squeezed my shoulder as I folded the letter. "There's more," I said, pulling out bank statements from the same box. "Look at these transfers. LR, 20,000, LR, 15,000, Kennedy read. "These are all from after your dad died." My phone buzzed. A text from Eric. "Found something concerning in the trust documents. Can you come in tomorrow?" I replied yes and continued digging. Another envelope fell from the box. Photos this time. One showed my mother at a bank, dated just weeks after Dad's death. She was smiling at the camera, holding papers. "Those look like trust documents," Kennedy said, squinting at the image. "They are." I checked the back of the photo. Someone had written, "Angela closing the deal." My phone rang. "Lana," I answered on speaker. "What the hell are you doing?" she slurred. "Mum's been crying for hours." "Funny, I've been crying for years," I replied. "How's that lifestyle blog coming along? The one funded by my half of Dad's trust?" Silence. "What are you talking about?" Her voice trembled. "Ask Mum about the LR account. Ask her about the transfers. Better yet, ask her about Dad's letter." "You're lying," Lana hissed. "You're just jealous because Mum loves me more." "No, I'm just better at math and documentation." I hung up. Kennedy helped me pack the evidence into my bag. "What's your plan for the meeting with Eric tomorrow?" "First, I want answers. Then, I held up the photo of Mom at the bank. I want justice. The next morning, Eric's office felt too small for the weight of what he was about to reveal. He spread documents across his desk, pointing to highlighted sections. Your father's original trust was explicit, equal distribution between both daughters. But look at this amendment, filed 3 weeks after his death. I leaned forward. What amendment? One that gave your mother full discretionary control. The signatures, he paused. They don't match your father's other documents. My heart stopped. Are you saying... I can't make accusations, Eric said carefully. But these irregularities combined with the timing, it warrants investigation. I have photos, I said, pulling out the bank image, and bank statements showing transfers to Lana's account. Eric studied them, his expression grave. This is serious, Emerson. If what I suspect is true, your mother could face legal consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Genesis, your mother's old friend. I know what happened with the trust. It's worse than you think. Meet me? I showed Eric the message. Genesis Lopez? He asked. She was there when your mother filed the amendment. Meet with her. I texted back. Coffee shop on 5th, 1 hour. Standing to leave, I gathered the documents. Thank you, Eric, for being honest. Your father was a good man, he replied. He deserved better than this. In my car, I called Kennedy. Clear your schedule. I'm meeting someone who knows the truth. The whole truth? I stared at the photo of my mother's smiling face at the bank. We're about to find out. Another text came through from Mom. Whatever you think you know, you don't understand. Don't do anything you'll regret. I typed back. You're right, I don't understand. But I will, and the only regret here is yours. The coffee shop was ahead, and through the window I could see an older woman watching the door. Genesis. She held what looked like an old phone, the kind that might have voicemails saved for years. Sometimes the truth comes in whispers. Sometimes it comes in paper trails. And sometimes it comes from the friends who witnessed it all, waiting years to set things right. I parked the car, grabbed my father's letter and walked toward the door. It was time to hear what Genesis had to say. Genesis sat in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a coffee mug. She looked exactly like the kind of person who'd keep secrets for 20 years, and finally decide to spill them. You look just like your father, she said as I slid into the seat across from her. I have his letter, I replied, placing it on the table, and the bank statements, and photos. She nodded, pulling out an old flip phone. I have something too. Your mother left me a voicemail the day she changed the trust. I kept it all these years because I knew this day would come. She pressed play and set the phone between us. My mother's voice filled our corner of the cafe. Genesis, it's done. I got control of James's trust. That fool thought splitting it equally was fair after everything Lana cost me. My reputation, my family. Emmy can take care of herself. She always has. But Lana needs this money. She's owed this. Call me back. My hands clenched around my coffee cup. What did she mean after everything Lana cost her? Genesis leaned forward. Your mother was engaged to someone else before your father, someone wealthy from a good family, when she got pregnant with Lana. But Lana's younger than me. Exactly. Genesis's eyes met mine. You were planned, Emerson. Lana wasn't. Your mother's first engagement ended because of her affair with your father. Her family nearly disowned her. She spent years compensating, trying to make Lana feel special because of her own guilt. My phone buzzed, Eric calling. I put it on speaker. Emerson, I've been reviewing the trust documents more carefully. The amendment wasn't just about control. Your mother transferred over 80% of the funds to Lana's account within the first year. How much? I asked, my voice hollow. Close to $200,000. Genesis reached across the table, gripping my hand. There's more. Your mother... She forged your father's signature on those documents. I watched her practice it for weeks before he died. The cafe seemed to spin around me. Eric's voice came through the phone. Emerson, are you there? I'm here. I took a deep breath. What are my options? Legally, we could challenge the amendment, prove the forgery, but it would mean a criminal investigation. Your mother could face serious charges. Genesis squeezed my hand. Think carefully, dear. Once you start this... She already started it, I said. 20 years ago, when she decided one daughter deserved everything and the other deserved nothing. My phone lit up with texts from Lana. Mum's telling me crazy stories about the past. This can't be true. Please call me. I ignored them. Eric, what do I do first? Document everything. Genesis, would you be willing to make a formal statement? Genesis nodded. It's time. I'll draft the paperwork, Eric said. But, Emerson, be prepared. This will tear your family apart. I laughed. A sharp sound that made nearby customers turn. What family? All I see is a house of cards built on lies. After ending the call, Genesis pulled out an envelope. There's one more thing. Your father suspected what your mother might do. He left this with me. Account information for a separate savings fund. One your mother never knew about. Inside was a bank statement showing $50,000. A post-it note in my father's handwriting read, For Emmy, because I know you'll need an escape someday. My phone buzzed again. Mom, this time. We need to talk. Now. Come to the house. I showed Genesis the text. She shook her head. Don't go alone. I won't, I texted Kennedy. Need backup, Mum's house, bringing receipts. Kennedy replied instantly. On my way, bringing wine. We might need it. Standing to leave, I gathered the evidence. Dad's letter, Genesis's phone with the voicemail, the trust documents, everything. Thank you, I told Genesis, for keeping the truth safe all these years. Your father was a good man, she said. He didn't deserve what she did, and neither did you. Outside, the sun was setting. Kennedy's car pulled up and she rolled down the window. Ready to crash a family meeting? I got in, clutching my folder of evidence. Ready to end one. My phone lit up one last time, a text from Lana. Whatever you're planning, don't. Please, you'll destroy everything. I typed back. No, Lana, Mom destroyed everything 20 years ago. I'm just turning on the lights so we can all see the wreckage. Kennedy pulled away from the curb. Your Mom's house? My Mom's house, I confirmed. Time to show her what the daughter she didn't deserve can do. The folder sat heavy in my lap. 20 years of lies, manipulations, and stolen opportunities, all documented and ready to explode. Mom always said I was good with paperwork. She was about to find out just how good. Mum's house looked smaller somehow, its shadows longer in the fading light. Lana's car was already in the driveway, parked crooked like she'd arrived in a hurry. Ready? Kennedy asked, killing the engine. I patted my folder. I've been ready for 20 years. Inside, Mom sat perched on her favourite armchair, like a queen on a throne, Lana hovering nearby. Both their heads snapped up when we walked in. Emmy, Mum started, her voice honey-sweet. Let's talk about this reasonably. I dropped the folder on the coffee table, papers spilled out, bank statements, trust documents, photos. Let's talk about forgery instead. The colour drained from her face. What? Or we could talk about the voicemail you left Genesis. I pulled out the flip phone. The one where you admitted to stealing my inheritance. Lana stepped forward. Emmy, you're being dramatic. Mom would never... I pressed play. Mom's voice filled the room, confessing everything. Lana's face crumpled as she listened. Turn that off, Mom snapped. Why? Afraid of hearing your own voice tell the truth for once? You don't understand, she said, standing up. Everything I did was for this family. No, I pulled out Dad's letter. Everything you did was to cover your own guilt. Genesis told me about your first engagement, about how Lana was the reason— "Shut up!" Mom's scream was shrill. "You have no right." "What's she talking about?" Lana asked, her voice small. "Nothing," Mom said quickly. "She's making things up. Like you made up Dad's signature." I spread out the trust documents. "Eric's having these analysed. The forgery is pretty obvious once you know what to look for." Mom sank back into her chair. "You wouldn't dare go to the authorities." "Actually," Kennedy spoke up, "we just came from meeting with the family attorney. He's already started the paperwork." Lana started crying. "Mom, tell me it's not true. Tell me you didn't steal Emmy's money." "I didn't steal anything." Mom stood again, pacing. "I redistributed what was owed. Do you know what I lost because of you, Lana? My family's respect, my first chance at a good life." "Stop," Lana covered her ears. "I don't want to hear this." $200,000, I said quietly. "That's how much you took from me. Money for college, for a house, for a future. You gave it all to Lana while making me work 2 jobs to support your lifestyle. You were strong enough to handle it," Mom spat. "You didn't need—" "I needed a mother," my voice cracked. "I needed a parent who loved me as much as they loved their guilt." Kennedy touched my arm, grounding me. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone, opening the family group chat. "What are you doing?" Mom asked, panic edging into her voice. "Showing everyone exactly who you are." I started typing. Unless what? "Unless you sign a confession, admit what you did with the trust, pay back what you stole." "That money's gone," Lana whispered. "I spent it, all of it." Of course she had. I looked at my mother, really looked at her. The woman who had shaped my entire life with her lies was suddenly small, desperate. "Then you'll both get jobs," I said. "Real ones. You'll pay me back every penny with interest, and you'll do it without complaining, or this evidence goes to everyone, the family, the police, everyone." "You're blackmailing us." Mum's voice rose in disbelief. "No, Mum. I'm teaching you about consequences, something you should have taught us years ago." My phone buzzed. A text from Genesis. "Did you show them?" I replied, "Just did. Standing by for the meltdown." Right on cue, Mom started sobbing. Not her usual manipulative tears, but real, ugly crying. Lana just stood there, shell-shocked. "I'll leave the evidence with Eric," I said, gathering my papers. "He'll draw up a repayment agreement, sign it, stick to it, and maybe I'll keep this between us." "Emmy, please," Mom reached for me. "You're my daughter." "No," I stepped back. "I'm the daughter you didn't deserve, remember?" Kennedy and I walked out, leaving them with their shattered lies. In the car, she handed me a tissue. "You okay?" "No," I wiped my eyes, "but I will be." My phone lit up with a final text from Lana. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I'm so sorry." Sorry didn't pay back $200,000. Sorry didn't erase 20 years of favoritism. Sorry wasn't enough. I turned off my phone and looked at Kennedy. "Take me home." She started the car. "Where to next?" "First, sleep. Then tomorrow we start looking for apartments far away from here. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's walking away and letting that truth do its work without you." 3 days of silence felt like holding my breath underwater. Then, on Thursday morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Mom had made her move. A long, tearful post in our family group chat. "My dearest family, I need to confess something that's been weighing on my heart." I screenshot it before she could delete it. Her carefully crafted story painted her as the victim, twisting the truth about Dad's trust into a mother's desperate attempt to provide for her children. "Time to set the record straight," I muttered, uploading the voicemail recording to the chat. Kennedy peered over my shoulder as I typed. "Since Mom wants to talk about truth, here's what really happened. Receipts attached. I posted everything. The bank statements, the trust documents, photos of the forged signatures, and Dad's letter. Then I added Genesis's statement about Mum's first engagement and the real reason behind her favouritism. The responses were instant. Aunt Marie, "Angela, how could you?" Uncle Paul, "I knew something was wrong when you cut us all off after James died." Cousin Sarah, "This explains so much about how you treated Emmy." Mum's response came through. "Emmy, delete this immediately. You're destroying our family." I replied, "No, Mom, you destroyed it. I'm just showing everyone the ruins." My phone rang. "Lana, your lifestyle blog sponsors are dropping you, aren't they?" I answered. "How did you know?" She was crying. "They said my family drama is bad for their brand. Karma's funny like that. Please," she begged, "tell them it's not true. Tell them you made it up." Like Mom made up Dad's signature. She hung up. Kennedy brought me coffee as I watched the family chat implode. "You okay? Look." I showed her my screen. Genesis had joined the conversation, posting her own memories of Mom's manipulation over the years. Other family members chimed in with stories I'd never heard. How Mom had isolated Dad from his siblings. How she'd borrowed money she never repaid. My phone buzzed again. A private message from Eric. "Your mother's trying to access what's left of the trust. I've frozen the accounts. Meeting tomorrow?" I replied yes, just as Mom's name flashed on my screen. Declining the call, I texted her instead. "The accounts are frozen. Eric has everything. Your move." She responded instantly. "You've ruined everything. Lana's sponsors dropped her. The family is turning against us, and your father would be ashamed." "No, Mom. Dad left me a letter saying exactly how ashamed he was of you." I posted one final message to the family chat, attaching Dad's letter. "For anyone wondering why I'm doing this, read Dad's last words. He knew. He always knew." The reactions poured in. "Oh, Emmy, we had no idea. Your father would be proud of you." Then Lana posted, "Mom just told me everything about her first engagement, about why she always... I'm moving out. I can't be here anymore." Mom's response was immediate. "Lana, don't you dare. After everything I've done for you." I watched as Lana read my message but didn't respond. 10 minutes later, she posted a photo of packed bags in her car. Kennedy whistled. "Looks like the golden child finally saw behind the curtain." "She'll go back," I said. "She always does." But an hour later, Lana sent me a private message. "I found an apartment, a real one, and a job interview tomorrow. I know it doesn't fix anything, but..." I left her on read. Eric texted again. "Your mother's threatening legal action." "Let her," I replied. "I have everything documented." I posted one last message to the family chat. "To everyone asking why I kept receipts all these years, Mom taught me well. Always keep records," she said. "You never know when you'll need to prove your side of the story." "Thanks for the lesson, Mom. Consider this my final homework assignment." P.S. Check the local Facebook community groups. Someone's already sharing screenshots. Karma's trending. Kennedy refreshed her phone. "Holy shit, she's right. It's everywhere." Mom's final message came through. "You'll regret this. Families should protect each other." I typed my response carefully. "You're right, Mom. Families should protect each other. But you only protected your secrets. Now, they're not secrets anymore. How does it feel to be the daughter everyone's ashamed of?" Then I muted the chat, turned to Kennedy and smiled. "Want to help me apartment hunt? I hear the next city over has great coffee shops hiring baristas. What about the repayment plan?" "Eric's handling it. Mom and Lana can figure out how to earn honest money for once." I closed my laptop. I'm done managing their lives. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing secrets. It's walking away and letting those secrets do their work in broad daylight. Mum taught me to keep receipts. She never taught me to keep quiet about them. The moving company arrived at 8 a.m. sharp. I watched them pack up my life into neat cardboard boxes while Kennedy coordinated from her clipboard. Everything was going according to plan until a familiar car pulled into the driveway. "Emmy?" Lana's voice cracked as she stepped out. She looked different. No designer clothes, no perfectly styled hair. Just jeans and a plain t-shirt, her face bare of makeup. "If you're here to defend Mom," I started. "I'm not." She held up her hands. "I got a job. A real one, at an accounting firm. Entry level, but..." She swallowed hard. "I start Monday." I continued labeling boxes. "Congratulations. I found Mom's old journals," she said quietly. "The ones from before we were born. What she wrote about her first engagement, about Dad, about..." She wiped her eyes. "About resenting me before I was even born." The movers carried my couch past us. "That must have been hard to read," I said, not looking at her. "Not as hard as reading what she wrote about you." Lana stepped closer. "She called you her backup plan. Said Dad insisted on having another baby, but she never wanted me," I finished. "I know. I didn't know," Lana sobbed. "All these years, the money, the attention, the praise, I thought I deserved it. I thought I was special." "You were special," I said, finally meeting her eyes. "To her, because you reminded her of her biggest mistake." Kennedy appeared in the doorway. "Em, the movers need you to sign something." "I'm selling my designer bags," Lana blurted out, "and my jewelry. Eric's setting up a repayment plan for your trust money." I signed the moving papers mechanically. "It's not about the money anymore, Lana." "Then what can I do? Please, Emmy, tell me how to fix this." "Fix what? The 20 years you watched me work myself to exhaustion while you partied? The times you mocked my practical jobs while spending my inheritance? Or maybe the way you smiled every time Mom called you the daughter she deserved?" Lana flinched. "I'll do anything." "There's nothing to do." I handed the clipboard back to the mover. "Some things can't be fixed with an apology and a payment plan." My phone buzzed. Mom calling again, 13th time today. I declined it. "She's drinking," Lana said softly. "A lot. The family's completely cut her off. Aunt Marie even posted about returning Christmas gifts Mom bought with stolen money." "Not my problem anymore." "Where will you go?" I gestured to the moving truck. "Somewhere new, somewhere without history. Can I..." Lana wrung her hands. "Can I at least have your new number? In case..." "In case what? In case Mom drinks herself into the hospital? In case you need someone to bail you out again?" I shook my head. "I'm not that daughter anymore." Kennedy touched my arm. "Last box, Em. You ready?" Lana reached for me. "Please don't go like this. You're my sister." "No." I stepped back. "I was your safety net, your backup plan, just like I was Mom's." "But safety nets get tired too, Lana." My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Your sister is crying because of you. How dare you abandon family?" I showed it to Lana. "See? Still manipulating, still making me the villain." Lana read it, and something seemed to break in her. "I'll talk to her, make her understand." "Don't bother." I picked up my last box. "Some people never understand anything except their own pain." "Emmy, wait!" She grabbed an envelope from her car. "I found this too. It's from Dad, addressed to both of us. I haven't opened it." I took it, recognizing Dad's handwriting. "For my daughters. Open when you're ready to understand each other." "Keep it," I told her. "I already understand everything I need to." Kennedy started the car as I placed the final box in the back seat. Through the rearview mirror, I watched Lana standing in the driveway, the envelope clutched to her chest, looking very young and very lost. "That was harsh," Kennedy said softly. "Sometimes the truth is harsh." I buckled my seatbelt. "Besides, forgiveness is a luxury daughters like me can't afford anymore." My phone lit up one last time. "Mom," again, "you'll regret this. Family is forever." I typed back, "The bad daughter doesn't live here anymore," and attached a photo of the empty house. Then I turned off my phone, rolled down the window, and let the wind carry away 20 years of being the good daughter, the responsible one, the backup plan. Sometimes walking away isn't about revenge at all. Sometimes it's just about finally choosing yourself. The coffee shop's morning rush kept my hands busy and my mind quiet. Between lattes and pastries, I barely noticed my phone buzzing until Kennedy texted, "Check your email. Eric sent something important." During my break, I opened the message. Eric had attached a bank statement showing the first repayment from Mom and Lana, $5,000. Not much, but more than I expected. A second email caught my eye from the scholarship foundation I'd started with my story. "Your post inspired me to share my own family's financial abuse," one recipient wrote. "Thank you for helping me pay for college when my own mother wouldn't." The bell above the door chimed. I looked up to see Thomas, my ex, walking in. "Still making the best cappuccino in town?" he asked, sliding onto a bar stool. "Still drinking them too sweet?" I replied, already reaching for the caramel syrup. He smiled. "I saw your story. It went viral in the financial abuse survivors groups. Is that why you're here, to discuss my viral moment?" "No." He accepted the coffee I handed him. "I'm here because you finally did what I always knew you could. You chose yourself." My phone buzzed again. Genesis this time. "Angela's selling the house. Lana's helping her downsize to an apartment. Thought you should know." Thomas read the message over my shoulder. "How does that make you feel?" "Honestly," I wiped down the counter, "nothing. And that's the most peaceful feeling I've had in years." The door chimed again. A teenage girl approached the counter, clutching a printed email. "Are you Emerson, from the Scholarship Foundation?" I nodded. "I got your email this morning. About the grant?" Her eyes welled up. "It's going to help me leave home, go to college. My mum's like yours, she—" "Say no more." I handed her a tissue. "That's why we started it, to help other daughters break free." After she left, Thomas raised an eyebrow. "We?" Kennedy and I used Dad's secret savings to start a foundation for girls with financially abusive parents. I shrugged. Seemed fitting. My phone lit up with Lana's weekly update text. "Day 43, sober for Mum. I'm still at the accounting firm. The apartment's small, but it's honest. I keep Dad's letter on my nightstand, still unopened. When you're ready." I left her on read, like always. "You know," Thomas said, "choosing yourself doesn't mean you have to choose loneliness. I'm not lonely. I have Kennedy, the foundation, this job, and a sister who's trying to change." I started cleaning the espresso machine. "Change doesn't erase the past." "No," he agreed, "but it can build a different future." The afternoon sun streamed through the windows as I served customers, each one carrying their own stories, their own hidden battles. Some recognized me from the viral post, others just wanted their coffee. Life moved on, simpler but stronger. My last notification of the day was from Eric. "Final paperwork filed. The trust investigation is closed. Your mother admitted everything to protect Lana from legal consequences. Thought you'd want to know." I showed Thomas. "See? Still protecting her golden child. Or maybe," he said gently, "she's finally facing consequences, on her own terms." As I closed the shop, Kennedy arrived with takeout. "Guess what? 3 more scholarship applications today. Girls, just like us, Emmy, we're actually making a difference." We sat at the corner table, sharing noodles and stories about the foundation's growth. My phone buzzed one final time, a voicemail from Mom. "Delete it," Kennedy suggested. Instead, I pressed play. "Emmy, I'm selling the house, the one you grew up in, the one where I ruined everything. Lana found a buyer. We're using the money to pay you back faster. I don't expect forgiveness, I don't deserve it, but I want you to know you were never the backup plan. You were the better plan. I was too selfish to see it. The foundation you started, you're helping girls become strong enough to walk away, like you did, like you should have done years ago. I'm proud of you, even though I have no right to be." I deleted the message without replying. You okay? Kennedy asked. Better than okay. I smiled. I'm free. Thomas squeezed my hand. Want company walking home? Yes, I said, surprising myself. I think I do. Outside, the evening air carried the scent of possibility. My phone stayed quiet in my pocket, no longer a chain connecting me to a past I'd outgrown. Some say revenge is bitter. But standing there, between my best friend and the man who always believed in my strength, I realized revenge wasn't the point anymore. The point was breaking free, helping others break free, and finally, letting the silence feel like peace. I'd kept the receipts, but I didn't need to keep the pain. That's the thing about choosing yourself. Sometimes it tastes like freedom, washed down with a perfectly made cappuccino, and the quiet satisfaction of writing your own story.
The first time I saw the house, I knew it would destroy me. I just didn't know how. My name is Meredith, and I used to believe in fairy tales. The kind where you meet your Prince Charming, pool your resources, and build a life together. Where trust isn't a weapon, and love doesn't come with hidden fees. Look at those original hardwood floors, Caleb whispered, his arm sliding around my waist as we stepped into the foyer. The realtor had given us the keys for a private showing, and the afternoon light streaming through the stained glass windows made everything look magical. I was already gone, completely, hopelessly in love with every inch of the place. It's perfect, I breathed, running my fingers along the carved banister. It's like stepping back in time. 1924, Caleb said, consulting the listing sheet. Look at this crown moulding. And that fireplace? Original marble. The house was everything we'd dreamed about during those late-night conversations in our cramped apartment. Victorian architecture, wraparound porch, enough space for the family we talked about starting. It was also completely out of our price range. We can't afford this, I said, though my heart was already picking out where our furniture would go. Actually, Caleb turned to me with that smile that had made me fall for him 3 years ago. We might be able to, if we use your inheritance. My grandmother's money. The check had arrived just 2 weeks earlier, still sitting in my savings account like a safety net I'd never expected to need. $87,000. Not enough to buy the house outright, but enough for a substantial down payment. That money was meant for my future, I said carefully. Our future, he corrected, pulling me closer. This could be it, Ma, our dream home, where we raise our kids, grow old together. Your grandmother would want that for you, wouldn't she? The realtor appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. So, what do you think? I looked around one more time. At the built-in bookshelves, the window seat where I could imagine reading on Sunday mornings, the kitchen that begged for family dinners and holiday gatherings. We'll take it, I heard myself say. Caleb squeezed my hand. Really? Really? I turned to the realtor. What do we need to do? The next few weeks blurred together. Caleb handled everything. The paperwork, the mortgage applications, the endless phone calls with lawyers and loan officers. I was drowning in a major product launch at work, pulling 12-hour days and trusting my husband to navigate the maze of home buying. Just sign here, he'd say, sliding documents across our kitchen table. And here, initial there. I signed. I initialed. I transferred my entire inheritance to our joint account and watched it disappear into escrow. You're amazing for handling all this, I told him one evening, finding him hunched over his laptop with a stack of papers. That's what husbands are for, he said, not looking up. Besides, you're the one making this possible. This house is going to be incredible. Moving day came faster than I expected. I'd barely had time to pack properly, but Caleb assured me we could take our time settling in. The house felt enormous after our one-bedroom apartment, every footstep echoing in the empty rooms. I was unpacking boxes in what would be our home office when I found the first piece of mail. It had been shoved behind the built-in desk, probably left by the previous owners. Except it wasn't addressed to them. Andrea Fleming, I read aloud, turning the electric bill over in my hands. That's weird. What's weird? Caleb appeared in the doorway with a box labelled Kitchen Misc. This bill. It's addressed to someone named Andrea Fleming. At this address. He glanced at it and shrugged. Probably just a mailing error. You know how the post office is. I'll call them tomorrow and get it sorted out. I nodded, but something nagged at me. Fleming. That was Caleb's last name before I'd taken it. But Andrea? I'd never heard him mention anyone named Andrea. Is Andrea a relative of yours? I asked. Distant cousin, maybe? I don't keep track of all my mum's side of the family. He set down the box and took the bill from my hands. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it. That night, after Caleb fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The house creaked and settled around us, unfamiliar sounds in our new life. I told myself I was just being paranoid. New house jitters. But something felt off. The next morning, while Caleb was at work, I did something I'd never done before. I went to the county assessor's website and typed in our address. My coffee mug slipped from my hands and shattered on the hardwood floor. Owner, Andrea Fleming. Not Caleb Roberts. Not Meredith Roberts. Not even both our names together. Andrea Fleming owned the house I'd bought with my grandmother's money. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, refreshed the page, typed the address again. Same result. Andrea Fleming. Andrea Fleming. Andrea Fleming. My hand shook as I grabbed my phone and called Caleb. Hey babe, what's up? His voice was cheerful, normal, like he hadn't just stolen my entire inheritance. I'm looking at the county records, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There's been some kind of mistake with the deed. Silence. Then, what do you mean? It says Andrea Fleming owns our house. That's impossible. Let me call the title company. Probably just a clerical error that hasn't been updated yet. You know how slow government websites are. Caleb, who is Andrea Fleming? Another pause. I told you. Probably some distant relative. Look, I'm in a meeting. Let me handle this, okay? Don't stress about it. He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, staring at the screen that had just destroyed my world. Don't stress about it. My husband had just told me not to stress about someone else owning the house I'd paid for. I called in sick to work, spent the day pacing our beautiful hardwood floors, trying to make sense of it. By evening, I'd convinced myself Caleb was right. Paperwork, mix-up. These things happened. Then, I remembered his tablet. Caleb always left it on the kitchen counter, charging overnight. I'd never snooped before, never had a reason to. But as I watched him sleep that night, snoring peacefully in our bed that sat in our room, in our house that apparently belonged to someone named Andrea Fleming, something cold settled in my chest. I crept to the kitchen at 2 a.m. His tablet was password protected, but I knew it. Our anniversary date. How romantic. I went straight to his messages. Recent conversations with his mum, his co-workers, his brother Jacob. Nothing unusual. Then I saw a thread with someone listed as A with messages from 3 days ago. She suspects nothing. Just a little longer and the house is ours. Good. Stick to the plan. 1 year, then file for divorce. She'll be too heartbroken to fight for anything. What if she finds out before then? She won't. She's too trusting. Always has been. I dropped the tablet. It clattered on the marble countertop loud enough to wake the dead, but somehow Caleb kept snoring. My legs gave out. I slid down the kitchen cabinets until I was sitting on the floor, staring at the screen that was still glowing with my husband's betrayal. 1 year, then divorce. I grabbed the tablet again, scrolling frantically through older messages. The conversation went back months, before we'd even found the house. Found the perfect place. Victorian, great neighbourhood. She'll fall in love with it. Perfect. Make sure everything goes through my name. We can't risk her having any legal claim. Already handled. She trusts me completely. She always was naive, just like her mother. My mother. They were talking about my mother. How did Andrea even know about my mother? I kept scrolling, my heart hammering so hard I was sure it would wake Caleb. Then I found the smoking gun. A message from 6 months ago. Divorce attorney consultation scheduled for next week. Want to make sure we have everything lined up perfectly. 6 months ago. We'd been married for 2 years, talking about starting a family, and he was already planning to leave me. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to my personal email, deleted the sent messages from his account. Then I sat in my kitchen, Andrea's kitchen, and planned my next move. The smart thing would be to confront him, demand answers, file for divorce immediately, and try to recover what I could. But I wasn't feeling smart. I was feeling dangerous. The next morning, I made Caleb his favourite breakfast, pancakes with fresh berries, the way his mum used to make them. "You're up early," he said, kissing my cheek as he sat down. "Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the house thing." He tensed slightly. "I told you I'll handle it. I know. I trust you." The words tasted like poison. I was thinking, maybe I should meet Andrea Fleming, though. If she's family, I should introduce myself. "That's not necessary. I'll sort everything out." "But I'd like to meet your family. We've been married 2 years, and I still haven't met your mum's side." "They're not really the social type." I smiled and poured him more coffee. "Well, when you talk to the title company today, maybe ask for Andrea's contact information. I could send her a nice card, explain the mix-up." "Meredith." His voice had an edge now. "Drop it. I said I'll handle it." "Of course." I kissed the top of his head. "I love you." "Love you too." He left for work 20 minutes later. I waited until his car disappeared around the corner, then called my co-worker Sella. "I need a favour," I said when she answered, "and it's going to sound crazy." "I live for crazy. What's up?" "Can you help me recover deleted text messages?" "Whose phone?" "My husband's." Silence, then, "Girl, what did you find?" "Everything." Sella arrived at my house 30 minutes later, with a laptop bag and a grim expression. "Show me what you found," she said, settling at my kitchen table. I pulled up the screenshots on my phone, watched her face change as she read through the messages. "Holy shit, Meredith. Yeah, this is fraud. Like, serious fraud." She looked up at me. "What do you want to do?" "I want to destroy them." She nodded slowly. "Okay, let's start with data recovery. If he deleted older messages, I might be able to get them back." Sella worked while I paced. Within an hour, she'd recovered months of deleted conversations between Caleb and A. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "From 8 months ago, the inheritance money came through. 87,000. Perfect. That'll cover the down payment and closing costs. She'll never suspect if we move fast." "You're sure she won't check the deed?" "She's too busy with work. Besides, she trusts me completely. Always has. Just like her pathetic mother trusted her father. Some women never learn." I stopped pacing. "What did that last message say?" Sella read it again. "Something about your mother and father. My parents divorced when I was 12. My father left us with nothing, and my mother spent years struggling to rebuild." I'd told Caleb that story once, during one of our late-night talks when we were dating. He'd held me while I cried about feeling abandoned. Now he was using it against me. "Keep going," I said. More messages appeared, plans stretching back almost a year. Details about the house hunt, the mortgage application, even conversations about how to keep me distracted during closing. "Wait," seller said, "look at this timestamp. This message is from yesterday." She's getting suspicious about the deed, asking questions. "Stick to the story, clerical error. I'll handle the title company." What if she digs deeper? She won't, but if she does, we accelerate the timeline. File next month instead of waiting the full year. Next month? I grabbed the back of a chair. They're planning to divorce me next month? Looks like it. Seller kept scrolling. "Oh, this is interesting. There's a whole thread about your friend Jolie." "Jolie? What about her?" "Apparently, she's been reporting back to Caleb about your moods, your conversations, whether you seem suspicious." I felt sick. Jolie had been my friend since college. We had lunch every week, shared everything. "Here," Seller pointed to a message from 3 days ago. "Jolie says you seemed off at lunch on Tuesday. Asked if you were having marriage problems." I mentioned feeling disconnected from Caleb lately. I thought I was confiding in a friend. "She's been feeding him information for months." The betrayal kept multiplying. My husband, his mother, my best friend. How many people were in on this? "There's more," Seller said quietly. "Financial records. Looks like Andrea has been planning to sell the house as soon as the divorce is final." "Sell it?" "Already has a realtor lined up. The plan was to split the profits with Caleb after you're out of the picture." I sank into a chair. They weren't just stealing my money. They were stealing my dreams, my future, my home. Then they were going to sell it and profit from my heartbreak. "What do I do?" I asked. "First, we document everything. Screenshots, printed copies, backup files." Salah was already typing. "Then you need a lawyer, a good one." "I can't afford a good lawyer. They have my money." "You can afford one consultation, and if this is as bad as it looks, any decent attorney will take this case. The fraud is so blatant, you'll recover damages." My phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. "Talked to title company. Just a computer glitch. Should be fixed by next week. Don't worry about it." I showed Seller the message. "He's lying," she said. "I know." I typed back. "Thank you for handling it. I love you." "You're not going to confront him?" "Not yet. If I tip him off now, they'll accelerate their plan. I need time to build a case." "So what's the play?" I looked around the kitchen. My kitchen. The one I'd paid for with my grandmother's money while my husband and his mother laughed behind my back. "I'm going to be the perfect wife," I said. "Loving, trusting, completely clueless, while I gather every piece of evidence I can find." "That's going to be hard, pretending everything's normal." "I've been doing it for 2 years, apparently. What's a few more weeks?" Seller packed up her laptop. "I'll keep digging from my end, see what else I can recover." "Thank you for everything." "Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly." After she left, I sat alone in the house that wasn't mine, planning my revenge. Caleb thought I was naive like my mother, trusting, easy to manipulate. He was about to learn how wrong he was. My phone rang. Caleb's name on the screen. "Hey, babe," I answered, injecting warmth into my voice. "Just wanted to check on you. You seemed stressed this morning." "I'm fine. Just excited about our new life together." "Me too. I love you." "I love you too," I lied, but I was getting very good at lying. The law office smelled like leather and expensive coffee. Quinn Erickson looked exactly like what I'd hoped for in a fraud attorney. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a handshake that said she didn't lose cases. "Walk me through it from the beginning," she said, settling behind her mahogany desk. I laid out everything. The inheritance, the house purchase, the county record showing Andrea as owner. Then I showed her the recovered text messages. Quinn's expression didn't change as she read, but I caught her jaw tighten. "This is textbook fraud," she said finally. "Conversion of funds, conspiracy, possibly RICO violations if we can prove ongoing criminal enterprise. Can you get my money back?" "I can get you a lot more than your money back. We're talking punitive damages, attorney fees, possibly criminal charges." She leaned forward. "But I need you to understand something. Once we file, there's no going back. Your marriage is over. My marriage was over the day he decided to steal from me." "Fair enough. I'll need 2 weeks to build the case properly. Can you maintain the facade that long?" "I've been doing it for 3 days already." "Good. Don't change anything. Act normal. Be the loving wife. Let them think they're winning." I left Quinn's office feeling lighter than I had in days. For the first time since finding those messages, I had hope. That evening, Caleb came home with flowers. "What's the occasion?" I asked, arranging them in a vase. "Do I need an occasion to buy my wife flowers?" He kissed my cheek. "I know you've been stressed about the house thing. Thought these might cheer you up." "They're beautiful, thank you." "Actually, I have some good news. My mom wants to meet you." I nearly dropped the vase. "Your mom?" I know, I've been putting it off. But she's been asking about you, and I figured it's time. I'd love to meet her." The words came out steady, but my heart was racing. "When?" "This weekend. Family barbecue at Jacob's place. Nothing fancy, just burgers and beer." Jacob, Caleb's younger brother. I'd met him exactly twice in 2 years of marriage, both times briefly at weddings. He'd seemed nice enough, but distant. "Will Andrea be there?" I asked, carefully. Caleb paused, a beer halfway to his lips. "Andrea?" "From the deed mix-up. You said she might be family." "Oh, right. No, she won't be there. Different side of the family." Another lie. I was keeping count now. Saturday came too fast. I spent an hour getting ready, choosing an outfit that said, "Perfect daughter-in-law." Sundress, cardigan, minimal makeup. Caleb seemed nervous on the drive over, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. "Just be yourself," he said as we pulled into Jacob's driveway. "Mom can be a little intense, but she'll love you." Jacob's house was smaller than ours, but well-maintained. He answered the door wearing a Brewers jersey and a cautious smile. "Meredith," he said, giving me a brief hug. "Good to see you again." "Thanks for having us." "Mom's in the backyard," he told Caleb. "Fair warning, she's already 3 beers in." We walked through the house to a small patio where a woman in her 50s stood flipping burgers. She had Caleb's dark hair, streaked with grey, and sharp blue eyes that assessed me immediately. "So you're the famous Meredith," she said, not moving to hug me. "I'm Andrea." The world tilted. Andrea, not some distant cousin or clerical error. Caleb's mother was Andrea Fleming, the woman who owned my house. "It's so nice to finally meet you," I managed, and likewise. Her smile was cold. "Caleb has told me so much about you." I bet he had. Dinner was excruciating. Andrea asked pointed questions about my job, my family, my plans for the future. Caleb kept shooting her warning looks, but she ignored them. "So the house is working out well?" she asked over dessert. "It's perfect," I said. "We're so grateful we could afford it." "Caleb mentioned you used inheritance money." "My grandmother left me some money, yes. It felt right to use it for our future together." Andrea nodded. "Family money should stay in the family." Jacob had been quiet most of the evening, but I caught him watching me with an odd expression. When Caleb and Andrea went inside to get more beer, he moved closer. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. "Sure." "Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean? With Caleb? With the marriage? You seem, I don't know, tense." I forced a laugh. "Just tired. Work's been crazy." He nodded, but his eyes stayed on mine. If you ever need someone to talk to, someone outside the situation, I'm here. Thank you. That's very kind. I mean it. He glanced toward the house, then back to me. Sometimes family loyalty isn't the most important thing. Before I could respond, Caleb and Andrea returned. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced conversation and fake smiles. On the drive home, Caleb was unusually quiet. Your mum seems nice, I lied. She liked you. How could you tell? She didn't insult you to your face. That's practically a warm welcome from her. I laughed, but my mind was spinning. Andrea Fleming wasn't some stranger who'd accidentally ended up on our deed. She was Caleb's mother, and she'd been part of the plan from the beginning. Jacob seemed different tonight, I said. Different how? I don't know. More attentive. Caleb's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Jacob's always been weird around family stuff. Don't read too much into it. But I was reading everything now. Every word, every glance, every hesitation, and Jacob's offer to talk was starting to look very interesting. I waited 3 days before texting Jacob. Thanks again for dinner. Would love to grab coffee sometime and chat more. His response came within minutes. How about tomorrow? Brew House on 5th Street, 2 p.m? I arrived early, choosing a corner table where we could talk privately. Jacob showed up exactly on time, looking nervous. Thanks for meeting me, I said as he sat down. Of course. He ordered black coffee, fidgeted with the sugar packets. So, what did you want to chat about? You asked if I was happy the other night. Right. Why did you ask that? Jacob was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. Can I ask you something first? Do you know who owns your house? My stomach dropped, but I kept my expression neutral. What do you mean? The deed. Have you looked at the deed? Jacob, what's going on? He pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then set it on the table between us. It was a recording app. I need to show you something, he said, but first, I need you to promise me you won't tell Caleb we talked. Why? Because what I'm about to tell you will probably end your marriage. And if Caleb finds out I was the one who told you, it'll end my relationship with my family too. I stared at him. What are you talking about? He pressed play on the recording. Andrea's voice filled the space between us. She signed everything without even reading it, just like you said she would. Caleb's laugh. I told you she was trusting. Makes this whole thing so much easier. When do you file for divorce? Soon, maybe next month. I want to make sure all the assets are properly protected first. And she'll get nothing? Nothing. The house is in your name. The joint accounts will be emptied before I file. She'll be left with whatever's in her personal checking account. Perfect. She deserves it for being so stupid. Jacob stopped the recording. I sat there, frozen. I recorded this 3 weeks ago, he said quietly, at Mum's house. They didn't know I was there. Why are you showing me this? Because you seem like a good person, and what they're doing is wrong. He leaned forward. Meredith, they've been planning this for over a year. The whole marriage was a setup. What do you mean? Caleb found out about your inheritance before he proposed. Mum has connections at the probate court. They knew exactly how much money you were getting. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too warm. You're saying he married me for my money? I'm saying he married you to steal your money. There's a difference. I thought about our wedding day. How happy I'd been. How perfect everything seemed. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I hoped I was wrong. And because... He ran a hand through his hair. Because turning against family isn't easy. But watching them destroy you isn't easy either. There's more, isn't there? Jacob nodded. The house isn't the only thing. Caleb's been moving money out of your joint accounts. Small amounts, so you wouldn't notice. It's all going into an account only he and Mum can access. How much? About 15,000 so far. I felt sick. What else? Your friend Jolie. She's not just reporting back to Caleb. She's his backup plan. What do you mean? If you get suspicious before the divorce, Caleb's going to claim you're having a mental breakdown. Jolie's been documenting everything you say, building a case that you're unstable, paranoid. They want to make you look crazy so no one will believe you when you try to fight back. The pieces clicked together. Jolie's concerned questions lately, her suggestions that I seemed stressed and not myself, the way she'd been pushing me to see a therapist. They're going to have me committed? Not committed, but they want to establish a pattern of mental instability. Makes it easier to contest any legal challenges you might bring. I stood up abruptly. I need to go. Meredith, wait. Jacob grabbed my arm gently. I have more recordings, financial documents, emails between Caleb and his divorce attorney. Whatever you're planning to do, I want to help. Why? Because they're my family. But that doesn't make what they're doing right. He pulled a flash drive from his pocket. Everything's on here. Bank records, recorded conversations, even some video footage from Mum's security cameras. I took the drive with shaking hands. Jacob, if they find out you gave me this. They won't. As far as they know, I'm the loyal son who keeps his mouth shut. What do you want in return? Nothing. Just, when this is over, don't disappear completely. You're the best thing that ever happened to this family, even if they're too stupid to see it. I walked to my car in a daze, sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the flash drive. Everything I needed to destroy them was right there in my hands. My phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. Working late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Another lie. But this time, I had proof. I drove home to the house that wasn't mine, made dinner for the husband who was planning to leave me, and smiled when he called to say he'd be even later than expected. Then, I plugged in Jacob's flash drive and started planning their destruction. The recordings were damning. The financial documents were worse. But the emails between Caleb and his attorney were the smoking gun I needed. They weren't just stealing my money. They were planning to frame me as mentally unstable, take everything I had and leave me with nothing. Too bad for them, I wasn't the naive little girl they thought I was. I was about to become their worst nightmare. Quinn's office felt different this time, more like a war room than a law office. This changes everything, she said, reviewing Jacob's evidence. With these recordings and financial documents, we're not just talking about fraud anymore. This is conspiracy, elder abuse of trust, potentially racketeering. What does that mean for me? It means you're going to get everything back, plus punitive damages that will make their heads spin. She leaned back in her chair. But I want to do this right. Maximum impact. What do you have in mind? Public humiliation combined with legal devastation. They want to play games? Let's play games. Quinn pulled out a calendar. I see here that Andrea's throwing a housewarming party next weekend. My blood ran cold. How do you know about that? Social media. Your friend Jolie posted about it. Celebrating Andrea's beautiful new home. Quinn's smile was predatory. Perfect opportunity. You want to serve them at the party? I want to destroy them at the party, in front of all their friends and family. Let everyone see exactly who they really are. The plan was brilliant and terrifying. We'd file the lawsuit Friday afternoon, then have the sheriff serve them Saturday evening during the party. Maximum witnesses, maximum humiliation. What do I need to do? Keep playing the loving wife, accept the party invitation, act excited about celebrating Andrea's new home. Quinn's air quotes dripped sarcasm. And when the time comes, let them hang themselves. I left her office with a mixture of excitement and terror. 1 week. In 1 week, my entire life would explode. That evening, Caleb came home with Chinese takeout and a guilty expression. "I have something to tell you," he said, setting the food on our kitchen counter. My heart stopped. Did he know about Jacob? About Quinn? "Mum's having a housewarming party this weekend. For the new house." "New house?" "She bought a place a few months ago. Finally, ready to show it off." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I know it's short notice, but she really wants you there." "Of course I'll be there. I'd love to see her new place." "Great." He kissed my forehead. "You're amazing, you know that." "So are you," I lied. The next few days crawled by. I played my part perfectly, excited about the party, asking what I should bring, what I should wear. Caleb seemed relieved by my enthusiasm. "Mum's really excited you're coming," he said Thursday night. "She's been planning this for weeks." I bet she has. Friday afternoon, Quinn called. "It's done. Lawsuit filed, Sheriff's Department notified. They'll serve the papers tomorrow at 7 p.m. What if something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong. Just stick to the plan." Saturday arrived grey and drizzly. I spent the morning cleaning our house, Andrea's house, and trying not to throw up from nerves. Caleb was unusually attentive, bringing me coffee, asking if I needed help getting ready. "You seem nervous," I said. "Just want everything to go well tonight. Mum's been looking forward to this." I'm sure she has. We arrived at the party at 6:30. Andrea's new house was actually our house, the one I'd paid for with my grandmother's money. She decorated it beautifully, filled it with flowers and candles, and all the touches that made it look like a real home. "Meredith," Andrea greeted me with fake warmth. "So glad you could make it." "Thank you for having me. The house is absolutely beautiful." "Isn't it? I've been dreaming of this place for years." "I bet you have." The party was in full swing by 7 p.m. About 30 people milled around, drinking wine and admiring Andrea's new home. I recognised several faces from Caleb's social media, co-workers, family friends, distant relatives. Jolie appeared at my elbow with a glass of wine. "Isn't this amazing? Andrea has such great taste." "She certainly does." "You seem a little tense. Everything okay?" "Just tired. Long week at work." Jolie nodded sympathetically. "You've seemed stressed lately. Maybe you should talk to someone. I know a great therapist." There it was, the setup Jacob had warned me about. "That's very thoughtful," I said. "I'll consider it." At exactly 7:15, there was a knock at the door. Andrea looked puzzled. All her guests were already here. "I'll get it," Caleb said, but I was already moving. "Let me," I said brightly. "I'm closer." I opened the door to find a sheriff's deputy in full uniform, holding an official-looking envelope. "I'm looking for Andrea Fleming and Caleb Fleming," he said loudly enough for the entire party to hear. The room went silent. Every conversation stopped. "That's my mother-in-law and my husband," I said, stepping aside. "Please, come in." Andrea appeared, her face pale. "What's this about?" "Mom, I have legal documents for you and your son." The deputy's voice carried across the silent room. "You're being served with a civil lawsuit for fraud, conspiracy, and conversion of funds." Gasps echoed through the house. Someone's wine glass hit the floor. "There must be some mistake," Caleb said, but his voice was shaking. "No mistake, sir." The deputy handed them each an envelope. "You're also being served with a lien notice. This property is now under court protection pending resolution of the lawsuit." Andrea tore open her envelope, her hands trembling. As she read, her face went from pale to grey. "This is ridiculous," she said, but her voice was barely a whisper. I stepped forward, my own voice clear and strong. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, but I think you should know the truth about this beautiful house you're celebrating tonight. Every eye in the room was on me. This house was purchased entirely with my inheritance money, $87,000 from my grandmother. But somehow the deed ended up in Andrea's name instead of mine and my husband's. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. People started recording. It turns out, I continued, my voice getting stronger, that my loving husband and devoted mother-in-law have been planning to steal my inheritance and divorce me for over a year. They thought I was too stupid and trusting to figure it out. Caleb stepped toward me. Meredith, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. Am I? I pulled out my phone and played one of Jacob's recordings. Andrea's voice filled the room. She signed everything without even reading it, just like you said she would. The silence was deafening. They were wrong about one thing, though, I said, looking directly at Caleb. I'm not my mother, and I don't forgive people who betray me. I walked toward the door, then turned back for one final shot. Enjoy your housewarming party. I hope you remember this night for the rest of your lives. The silence shattered like glass. You're lying, Andrea screamed, lunging toward me. This is my house. I bought it. With my money, I said calmly, every penny of it. The deputy stepped between us. Ma'am, I need you to calm down. But Andrea was beyond calm. She's having a breakdown, can't you see? She's delusional. Actually, I pulled out a folder I'd been carrying. I have bank records showing the exact transfer of $87,000 from my personal account to escrow. Would you like to see them? I held up the papers for everyone to see. Here's the wire transfer, here's the escrow statement, and here's the deed showing Andrea as owner of a house she never paid for. Caleb grabbed my arm. Meredith, you need to stop this right now. Don't touch me. My voice cut through the room like a blade. Don't you ever touch me again. He dropped his hand like I'd burned him. This is insane, Jolie said, pushing through the crowd. Meredith, you're scaring people. You need help. Do I? I turned to face her. Tell me, Jolie, how long have you been reporting my conversations back to my husband? Her face went white. What are you talking about? Every lunch we've had for the past 6 months, every time I mentioned feeling disconnected from Caleb, every concern I shared with you as a friend. I pulled out my phone again. Should I play the recording where you and Caleb discuss my mental state? You're recording people, someone whispered. I'm not, but apparently my husband and his mother have been recording everything for over a year. I looked around the room. Would you like to hear them planning my divorce? Discussing how to steal my money? Laughing about how stupid and trusting I am? Stop, Caleb said desperately. Please, just stop. Why? Embarrassed? You weren't embarrassed when you were stealing from me. An older woman I didn't recognize stepped forward. Are you saying they stole your inheritance? I'm saying they conspired to defraud me of $87,000. They manipulated me into using my grandmother's money to buy this house, then put the deed in Andrea's name so I'd have no legal claim to it. That's fraud, someone else said. Yes, it is, I smiled. Which is why I filed a civil lawsuit for fraud, conspiracy, conversion of funds, and emotional distress. The lien on this house means they can't sell it, refinance it, or transfer ownership until the case is resolved. Andrea's face was purple now. You vindictive little bitch, after everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, besides steal my money and plan to destroy my life? We gave you a family, a home. You gave me nothing. I paid for everything. I gestured around the room. This house, this party, probably even the wine you're all drinking, all bought with my grandmother's money. The crowd was murmuring now. phone still recording. I could see the shock and disgust on their faces as the reality sank in. Jacob appeared in the doorway, surveying the chaos. His eyes met mine across the room, and he nodded slightly. "There's more?" I announced. "Should I tell them about the secret bank account? The $15,000 you've been stealing from our joint accounts? Or maybe about the divorce attorney you've been consulting with for 6 months? How do you know about that?" Caleb's voice was barely a whisper. "Because I'm not as stupid as you thought I was." The deputy cleared his throat. "Folks, I need to finish serving these papers. The court has also issued a restraining order. Mr. Fleming, you're not allowed within 500 feet of the plaintiff." "She's my wife." "Not for much longer," I said. "I filed for divorce yesterday. You'll be served with those papers on Monday." Caleb stared at me like he'd never seen me before. "Meredith, we can work this out. We can talk about this." "Talk about what? How you married me for my money. How you and your mother planned to steal everything and leave me with nothing. How you were going to have me declared mentally unstable so no one would believe me." Gasps echoed through the room. Several people started backing toward the door. "That's not true," Caleb said weakly. "Should I play that recording too?" "You're destroying our lives," Andrea hissed. "No," I said, walking toward the door. "You destroyed your own lives when you decided to steal from me. I'm just making sure everyone knows who you really are." I paused at the threshold and turned back one last time. "By the way, the story's already gone viral. Someone posted the video on social media about 10 minutes ago. Last I checked, it had 50,000 views." Andrea let out a sound like a wounded animal. "Oh, and Caleb?" I smiled sweetly. "You might want to call your boss on Monday. I sent copies of all the evidence to your compliance department. Turns out financial advisors who commit fraud tend to lose their licenses." I walked out into the night air, leaving behind the chaos I'd created. Behind me, I could hear shouting, crying, the sound of people fleeing the party. My phone was already buzzing with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, social media alerts. But for the first time in months, I felt free. They'd built their house of lies with my money. Now I'd burned it down with the truth. The courthouse steps were cold under my feet as I walked down them for the final time. Quinn walked beside me, briefcase in hand, looking satisfied. "Congratulations," she said. "Full restitution, punitive damages, and they're both facing criminal charges. That's about as complete a victory as you can get. What happens now? Now, you rebuild your life with $200,000 instead of the $87,000 they stole. The house reverts to you. Caleb's assets are frozen until he pays his portion of the judgment. And Andrea..." Quinn smiled. "Andrea gets to explain to the IRS why she didn't report the fraudulent income." My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Can we talk? Jacob?" I showed Quinn the message. "You're cool," she said, "but remember, he's the reason we had enough evidence to win." I typed back, "Coffee shop on 5th Street, 1 hour." Jacob was already there when I arrived, sitting in the same corner booth where he'd first played me those recordings. He looked tired, older somehow. "How are you holding up?" I asked, sliding into the seat across from him. "I've been better. Mum's not speaking to me. Caleb threatened to have me arrested for theft." "For giving me evidence of their crimes?" "Family loyalty is complicated." He stirred his coffee absently. "But I don't regret it. What they did was wrong." "What are you going to do now?" "Start over, I guess. Maybe move out of state. Fresh start." He looked up at me. "What about you?" "Same thing. Fresh start." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Jacob reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "This came to my house yesterday," he said, sliding it across the table. "Addressed to you." I recognized the handwriting immediately. Caleb's. "I don't want to read it." "You should, for closure." I opened the envelope reluctantly. The letter was short, written on legal pad paper in Caleb's familiar scrawl. Meredith, I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't expect you to. What we did was wrong. I told myself it was just business, that you'd never find out, that everyone would be happy in the end. I was lying to myself as much as to you. You deserved better. You deserved the truth. I'm sorry. Caleb. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. Feel better? Jacob asked. No, but it's something, I guess. He really did love you, you know, in his own twisted way. Love doesn't steal from you. Love doesn't lie to you for 2 years. Love doesn't plan to destroy your life for money. Jacob nodded. You're right. I just thought you should know he's not completely heartless. Just mostly heartless? Yeah, mostly. I finished my coffee and stood to leave. Take care of yourself, Jacob. And thank you for everything. Thank you for not destroying me along with them. You were the only honest one in the family. Why would I destroy you? I walked home to my apartment, my real apartment, the one I'd kept throughout the marriage as a safety net I'd never expected to need. It was small, cramped, nothing like the dream house I'd lost and won back. But it was mine. Truly, completely mine. My phone rang. Seller's name on the screen. How did it go? She asked. Complete victory. They're both broke and facing criminal charges. Good. They deserved worse. Maybe. But this feels like enough. So, what's next? You moving back into the house? I looked around my tiny apartment, at the mismatched furniture, the stack of takeout menus, the single window that faced a brick wall. No, I said. I'm selling it. Really? That house was never about the house. It was about the dream of a life with someone I thought I could trust. That dream is dead. I don't want to live in its grave. Smart. Fresh start. Exactly. We hung up and I sat alone in my apartment thinking about the future. The real estate market was good. The house would sell quickly, probably for more than I'd originally paid. With the lawsuit settlement and the sale proceeds, I'd have enough money to go anywhere. Do anything. For the first time in 2 years, my life was completely my own. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find a delivery driver holding a small package. Meredith Roberts? That's me. He handed me the package and left. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting on the label. Andrea's. Inside was a single item. The spare key to the house. The one I'd given them for emergencies. No note, no explanation. I held the key for a moment, feeling its weight. Then I walked to my kitchen, opened the trash can, and dropped it in. They'd built their scheme with my money and my trust. I'd built my future with their shame and my strength. The key hit the bottom of the trash with a satisfying clink. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way forever.
It's funny how a single comment can stick with you, burrowing deep, even when it's delivered with a smile. 6 years ago at Thanksgiving, my brother Edwin's wife, Mallory, had leaned across the table, her eyes twinkling a little too brightly. I was 42 then, still single, and the family's resident spinster, a title I'd grown used to. Before we move on, tell me where you're watching from. I love mapping my viewers. Oh, Georgia, she'd purred, taking a sip of wine. It's just so lovely you're here. You know, it's so important for women to have family, especially when you don't have a family of your own. Edwin, my younger brother, who was 40 at the time, had just cleared his throat and looked at his plate. He always did that when Mallory said something pointed. I just smiled back, a little tighter than usual, and changed the subject. I was used to it. I'd always been the dependable one, the financially stable one, the one who didn't need a man to define her. But in their eyes, that just made me lonely. I was 48 now, and that perception hadn't changed. For years, I'd been the quiet anchor for our family. Our parents' divorce had hit Edwin hard when we were kids, and I, being 2 years older, had often stepped into a quasi-parental role. Mallory, who was 43 now, had always seemed to resent that dynamic, as if my bond with Edwin somehow diminished her own. Edwin, at 46, was still the charming, easygoing brother, but he'd developed a habit of letting Mallory steer the ship, even when it was headed for an iceberg. That iceberg finally hit about a year ago. I was 47, enjoying a quiet evening at home when my phone rang. It was Edwin. His voice was tight, strained, something I rarely heard from him. "Georgia, look, I wouldn't call unless it was an emergency." He sounded genuinely desperate. "Mallory, she lost her job. The marketing firm downsized, and with the mortgage and the kids, we're drowning. We're going to lose the house." He laid it all out, missed payments, maxed out credit cards, the fear in Mallory's eyes. He said they just needed a little help, just for a little while, until Mallory found something new. He promised to pay me back. I didn't hesitate. Family was family. I had a good job, a comfortable savings account. I'd always been prudent with my money, unlike Edwin and Mallory, who seemed to live perpetually on the edge of their means. I told him I'd help. I started sending them $200 every month, enough to cover their mortgage shortfall and keep them afloat. It was a significant chunk of my income, but I told myself it was worth it. They were my family. My niece, Bailey, was 15 then, and my nephew, Joseph, was 11. I love those kids. I wanted them to have stability. The payments became a routine. Every first of the month, I'd transfer the money. Edwin would send a quick text, "Thanks, sis. You're a lifesaver." Mallory would occasionally send a perfunctory email, "Appreciate it, Georgia. Things are still tight." The little while stretched into months, then a full year. Mallory hadn't found a new job, or at least not one that paid enough to make a difference. I didn't press. I just kept sending the money. A few weeks ago, I was scrolling through social media, something I rarely did. I saw a photo Edwin had posted. It was a candid shot of Mallory, Bailey, and Joseph, all laughing on their porch swing. Bailey, now 16, looked so grown up, her arm around her mom. The caption read, "So thankful for my real family." I zoomed in. Edwin wasn't in the photo, but his account had posted it, and I wasn't tagged. Of course, I wouldn't be in the photo, but the caption, "My real family." It hit me like a cold wave. After a year of quietly funneling my savings into their lives, after a lifetime of being the dependable one, the one who always showed up, I was still just the outsider. I was still the one they pitied. I was still the lonely aunt who bought her way into their lives. I closed the app. Did they even see me as family at all? A few weeks after seeing that social media post, the invitation arrived for the annual family picnic. It was a tradition, held every summer at the local park, and I never missed it. I'd spent countless afternoons there, watching Bailey and Joseph grow up, pushing them on swings, cheering them on during sack races. This year, though, the usual warmth I felt anticipating it was tinged with a cold unease. That real family caption still stung. Still, I went. I always did. I arrived with my usual offerings, a big bowl of my famous potato salad, and for the kids, handmade gifts. For Bailey, now 16, I'd knitted a soft, oversized cardigan in her favorite shade of lavender. I'd spent weeks on it, picturing her wearing it to school. For Joseph, who was 12 and loved to draw, I'd put together a custom art kit, complete with a new sketchbook and a set of professional-grade colored pencils. I always tried to tailor their gifts to their interests, to show them I paid attention. I found Edwin, Mallory, and the kid near the big oak tree, already set up with their picnic blanket. Edwin, 46, gave me a quick, distracted hug. Mallory, 43, offered a tight smile. "Georgia, you made it," she said, her eyes already scanning the crowd. "Of course," I replied, setting down the potato salad. I handed the wrapped gifts to Bailey and Joseph. "Oh, Aunt Georgia, you didn't have to," Bailey said, taking the cardigan. She held it up, gave it a perfunctory glance, and then set it down on the blanket without unfolding it. "Thanks." Joseph, 12, was a bit more enthusiastic. "Cool, Aunt Georgia," he said, unwrapping the art kit. He flipped through the sketchbook. "These are really nice pencils." He was sweet, my quiet nephew, always had been. He was the only one who seemed genuinely pleased, even if his gratitude was quickly overshadowed by the general family chaos. Mallory barely acknowledged the gifts, already directing Edwin to help her with something else. Bailey, after a moment, picked up her phone, scrolling. It was clear their attention was elsewhere. It always was. Later, I went to get a glass of lemonade from the cooler near the picnic tables. The park was buzzing with families, kids shouting, music faintly playing from someone's portable speaker. As I poured my drink, I heard voices from just around the corner of the large cooler, hidden from view. "Ugh, my aunt is so weird," I heard Bailey's voice, followed by a giggle. It was her, talking to a friend I didn't recognize. "Why?" the friend asked. "She's just always there," Bailey said, her voice dropping a little, as if sharing a secret. "And she buys us all these gifts, and she helps my parents with money, but it's like she doesn't have anyone else. Mom says Aunt Georgia's just a sad old woman who buys people 'cause no one loves her." My hand froze on the lemonade dispenser. The ice clinked against the glass, the only sound I registered for a moment. It wasn't just Bailey's words, though they were a sharp, cold jab. It was the echo of Mallory's voice, the very phrase she'd used years ago at Thanksgiving, twisted and amplified through her daughter. "When you don't have a family of your own." This wasn't just teenage cruelty. This was a narrative, carefully cultivated and fed to my niece by her own mother. Mallory had been poisoning Bailey's mind against me, painting my generosity as desperation, my independence as loneliness. My breath hitched, but I didn't make a sound. I didn't move. I just stood there, listening to the casual, dismissive laughter that followed. It was a laugh that implied I was pathetic, an object of pity, a source of easy money. My heart felt like it had turned to ice in my chest. All those payments, all those years of being the one they could always count on, the one who never asked for anything in return. It was all just a transaction to them, a sad, desperate transaction. I finished pouring my lemonade, my hand steady despite the tremor that had started deep within me. I walked back to the picnic blanket, a ghost of a smile on my face, and sat down. No one noticed anything amiss. I stayed for another hour, making polite conversation, watching my family, who now seemed like strangers in a familiar skin. When it was time to leave, I said my goodbyes, collected my empty potato salad bowl, and drove home. The entire drive was silent, the kind of silence that screams. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't even feel sad, not really. I made a list. The list I made wasn't a grocery list or a to-do list. It was a ledger. The moment I walked through my front door, the quiet hum of my own home, a stark contrast to the park's earlier chaos. I went straight to my computer. I opened my banking app, then my email. I started from a year ago, when Edwin, then 45, had called me in crisis. I meticulously went through every transaction, the Model $200 transfers, month after month, for a full year. That was $14,400. Then I added the smaller things, The surprise gifts that weren't so surprising. The $300 I'd sent for Joseph's school trip when Mallory, 43, claimed they were short. The $500 for Bailey's orthodontist bill because insurance didn't cover enough. The new tires Edwin, 46, needed for his car, which I'd quietly paid for after he'd mentioned it offhand, assuming I wouldn't notice. It all added up. Over $14,000. All of it given out of love, out of a sense of family obligation, out of a desire to help. And all of it, apparently, seen as a pathetic attempt to buy love from a sad old woman. As I typed, a strange numbness settled over me. It wasn't anger, not exactly. It was more like an emotional amputation. The part of me that had always rationalized their behavior. They're my family, they're struggling, they need me, was slowly, painfully being severed. I kept repeating those phrases in my head, like a mantra, trying to rekindle the warmth, the justification. But it was cold comfort now. The words felt hollow, echoing in the empty space where my empathy used to be for them. My mind drifted back to my childhood, to the early days after our parents' divorce. I was 8, Edwin 6. Our mom worked 2 jobs. Our dad was largely absent. I'd learned to cook, to clean, to look after Edwin. I'd helped him with his homework, bandaged his scraped knees, listened to his fears. I'd been his protector, his second mother, long before Mallory ever entered the picture. When Edwin, then 20, introduced me to Mallory, then 17, she'd been polite enough, but I'd always sensed a subtle coolness from her. She never liked how close Edwin and I were, how he'd instinctively turn to me for advice, how I knew things about him she didn't. She saw it as competition, I realize now, not connection. I closed the ledger file, the numbers stark on the screen. It was late. The house was quiet. My thoughts turned to someone else, someone who had always seen me, truly seen me, without judgment or pity. Susan. Susan Rose was 71, a dear friend I'd known for over 20 years. We'd met through a local charity organization where we both volunteered. She was a formidable woman, sharp-witted, kind, and incredibly generous, a true philanthropist. She'd never married, never had children, and we often joked about being kindred spirits in a world that didn't quite know what to do with independent women. She was now in hospice care, her health failing rapidly. I visited her every other day. The next afternoon, I drove to the hospice. The air in her room was thick with the scent of lilies and the quiet hum of medical equipment. Susan was frail, but her eyes, though a little clouded, still held their characteristic sparkle. "Georgia, my dear," she whispered, reaching for my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. We talked for a while, about nothing and everything. Then she paused, her gaze fixed on me. "You know, Georgia," she said, her voice raspy, "I've been thinking a lot about legacy lately. Not just money, but what we leave behind, the peace we make for ourselves." She squeezed my hand. "Don't leave your peace to people who stole it. Don't let them define your worth. Your kindness is a gift, Georgia, not a currency." Her words resonated deep within me. They were a balm, but also a challenge. They gave a name to the cold, hard feeling that had settled in my chest. They had stolen my peace, and I had let them. 2 days later, the call came. Susan had passed peacefully in her sleep. I felt a profound sadness, a deep ache for the loss of a true friend. But amidst the grief, there was also a quiet sense of gratitude for her final wisdom. A week after Susan's funeral, I received a formal letter in the mail. It was from Trenton Rose, Susan's nephew and the executor of her estate. I opened it, expecting a standard notification. My eyes scanned the legal jargon, then stopped. My breath caught. Susan Rose, my dear friend, had left me her entire estate. All of it. The letter stated a preliminary valuation, $1.2 million. My hands trembled as I reread the words. $1.2 million. The world tilted on its axis. My plans, my quiet resolution, suddenly felt too small, too insignificant. This wasn't just about my $14,000 anymore. This was a whole new game. The inheritance from Susan hit me like a physical blow, though not an unpleasant one. More like a sudden, dizzying shift in gravity. $1.2 million. My quiet, comfortable life, built on careful savings and prudent choices, had just been irrevocably altered. I was 48, and suddenly, I was wealthy. I spent a few days in a daze, processing the news. The initial shock gave way to a strange sense of clarity. Susan's words echoed in my mind. Don't leave your peace to people who stole it. This wasn't just about my $14,400 anymore. This was about a lifetime of being taken for granted, of being seen as a resource rather than a person. This was about Mallory's snide comments, Edwin's passive enabling, and Bailey's cruel echo of her mother's words. This inheritance wasn't just money. It was leverage. It was the means to make a statement, a final, unassailable declaration of my worth. I called Trenton Rose, Susan's nephew and the executor of her estate. He was 38, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney with a kind demeanor. We scheduled a meeting for the following week. When I sat across from Trenton in his sleek office, the air was formal, professional. He went over the details of Susan's estate, the various assets, the timeline for probate. When he finished, I took a deep breath. Trenton, I began, I have a request. I'd like to revise my own will. He raised an eyebrow, a slight flicker of surprise. Of course, Georgia. Is there anything specific you have in mind? Yes, I said, my voice steady. I want to remove every single family member from my will. My brother, Edwin, his wife, Mallory, my niece, Bailey, my nephew, Joseph, everyone. Trenton didn't react, his face a mask of professional neutrality. He'd probably seen it all. And to whom would you like to designate your assets? I want to leave a substantial donation to a local women's shelter, I told him, the Haven House. I've volunteered there for years, and I know their director, Fatima Steele. She's 39, and she runs an incredible operation. They provide safe housing, counseling, job training, everything for women escaping abuse and homelessness. Trenton nodded, making notes. A very worthy cause. We can certainly arrange that. And the remainder of your estate? All of it, I confirmed. Every last penny. To the Haven House. He paused, then looked at me directly. Georgia, are you absolutely certain? This is a significant decision. Your family, I presume, would expect to be beneficiaries. They would, I agreed, a faint, humorless smile touching my lips. And that's precisely why I'm doing this. My family has had their share of my kindness, and they've twisted it into something ugly. It's time I directed my resources to people who truly need and appreciate kindness. He simply nodded again, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He didn't press further. He was a professional. As we discussed the specifics, I had another idea. Trenton, I also want to pen a few letters to Edwin, Mallory, and Bailey, to be opened upon my death, along with the reading of the will. Standard practice, if you wish, he said. No, not standard, I clarified. These won't be sentimental. They'll be honest, not hateful, but factual. A clear explanation of why I've made these choices. I wanted them to know, without a shadow of a doubt, that their actions had consequences. Over the next few days, I drafted those letters. It was a cathartic process. I didn't descend into vitriol or anger. Instead, I wrote with a quiet precision, detailing the payments, the overheard comments, the years of subtle slights. I explained that my generosity had been misconstrued as desperation and that I refused to perpetuate a cycle where my compassion was taken for granted. I sealed each one, knowing they would remain untouched until the appointed time. Finally, I added one more clause, a crucial one, to my will. Trenton, I said, when we met again to finalize the documents, I want to include a specific clause. In the event of undue inquiries into my finances or estate by my immediate family, or any attempts at manipulation or coercion regarding my assets, I authorize you as executor to reveal elements of this will or the contents of these letters at your discretion to ensure my wishes are understood and respected. Trenton's eyes widened slightly. This was unusual, but not unheard of. That's a strong provision, Georgia. It gives me significant latitude. Good, I said, a quiet satisfaction settling over me. I want them to understand the consequences of their actions. I want them to know that my kindness was not a weakness to be exploited. It was a choice, and now I'm choosing differently. He nodded, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips. Consider it done. The papers were signed. My future, and theirs, was sealed. 6 months passed after I revised my will. 6 quiet, deliberate months. I was 48, still living in my modest home, still working my steady job. The $1.2 million inheritance from Susan was safely managed by Trenton, invested wisely, but I hadn't touched it. It was a silent promise, a secret weapon. During this time, I played my role perfectly. I was the quiet, helpful aunt, present at family gatherings, just as I'd always been. I continued to send the $200 monthly payments to Edwin and Mallory, even though the thought of it now felt like a bitter pill. But I needed them to remain comfortable, to remain complacent, to remain utterly unaware of the tectonic shift beneath their feet. I needed them to believe I was still the same old Georgia, the one who could be relied upon, the one who was just a little bit sad and lonely. At Joseph's birthday dinner, the air was thick with the usual family chatter. Joseph, now 12 and a half, was thrilled with his new video game. Edwin, 46, was laughing loudly at something Mallory, 43, had said. Bailey, 16 and a half, was on her phone, occasionally glancing up to offer a bored smile. Mallory, ever the ringleader of subtle jabs, leaned across the table towards me, a mischievous glint in her eyes. So, Georgia, she began, her voice a little too loud, drawing attention. Edwin and I were just talking. You know, you really should get out more. Maybe we should hire you one of those matchmakers. Finally catch you a man. She punctuated it with a brittle laugh, clearly expecting everyone to join in. Edwin, 46, let out a nervous chuckle, looking down at his plate. He always did that. A weak attempt at diffusing the tension Mallory created, but never enough to actually challenge her. He was a master of passive discomfort. I just smiled, a serene, unreadable smile. Oh, Mallory, I'm perfectly happy with my life as it is, I said, my voice calm. I have my work, my volunteering, my friends. I'm quite content. Mallory waved a dismissive hand. Oh, come on, everyone needs someone. It's not natural to be alone at your age. I felt Bailey's eyes on me. She wasn't laughing. She was giving me a pitying look, a mix of embarrassment and genuine, if misguided, concern. It wasn't the cruel, mocking gaze from the picnic. It was the look of a teenager who was starting to see the cracks in her mother's carefully constructed world, even if she didn't fully understand them yet. She was still a child, I reminded myself, being shaped by the toxic narrative she'd been fed. That flicker of something almost human in her eyes was a small, unexpected twist. The conversation moved on, but the feeling lingered. They still saw me as the sad, lonely spinster, the one who needed fixing, the one who needed a man to validate her existence. They still had no idea. A few days later, my phone rang. It was Trenton Rose. "Georgia," he said, his voice measured, "I just wanted to give you a heads up. Your brother Edwin contacted my office today." My heart gave a little jolt. "Oh, what about?" "He was inquiring about your finances," Trenton said, a hint of amusement in his tone. "Specifically, he mentioned seeing your new car and seemed rather curious about how you were affording it. He asked if you had perhaps come into some money, or if you were having financial difficulties that might explain a sudden purchase. I had bought myself a new car a few weeks prior, a sensible but comfortable sedan. Nothing flashy, but certainly an upgrade from my old reliable model. I hadn't thought much of it. Of course Edwin would notice. Of course he would immediately jump to conclusions, not about my hard work, but about some sudden, unexplained windfall, or, even better, some secret financial trouble that would make me even more dependent on them for emotional validation. He was very persistent, Trenton continued. He even implied that as your brother, he had a right to know about your financial well-being, especially since you'd been so generous with them. A cold, hard smile spread across my face. This was it. This was the entitlement. This was the manipulation. This was the exact behavior I had anticipated when I added that clause to my will. "Thank you, Trenton," I said, my voice calm, almost serene. "I think it's time we had a family dinner." The invitation for dinner was met with predictable enthusiasm. Edwin, 46, was probably hoping for a casual interrogation about my new car. Mallory, 43, no doubt saw it as an opportunity to reinforce her narrative about my loneliness. Bailey, 16, and Joseph, 12, would just be happy for a home-cooked meal that wasn't their mom's attempt at a casserole. I set the table meticulously, polished the silverware, and cooked a meal I knew they all loved. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans with almonds. The perfect domestic scene. I even put on a nice dress. The doorbell rang precisely at 7. Edwin and Mallory walked in, followed by the kids. "Georgia, this is so lovely," Mallory chirped, her eyes already scanning my living room, no doubt looking for new purchases. "What's the occasion?" "No occasion, really," I said, smiling warmly. "Just thought it was time for a family dinner. And I have a guest joining us tonight, a friend from Susan's foundation." Edwin raised an eyebrow. "Susan Rose? The one who passed away?" "The very same," I confirmed, just as Trenton Rose, 38, walked in. I'd given him a key earlier. He was dressed in a smart suit, but his demeanor was relaxed, almost casual. "Edwin, Mallory, Bailey, Joseph. This is Trenton," I introduced, my voice smooth. "Trenton, this is my brother Edwin, his wife Mallory, and my niece and nephew, Bailey and Joseph." Trenton offered a polite nod and a handshake. "Pleasure to meet you all." "Georgia has spoken highly of you." He was a master of understatement. Dinner was, at first, deceptively normal. We talked about Joseph's school, Bailey's upcoming exams, Edwin's work. Mallory, however, couldn't resist. She kept glancing at Trenton, then at me. "So, Trenton," she began, her voice dripping with casual curiosity. "You work with Susan's foundation," Georgia said. She was quite the philanthropist, wasn't she? So generous. "I always admired that." She paused, then added, "Did she leave anything to the foundation in her will?" Trenton met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Susan was indeed very generous in her will, Mallory. Her legacy will continue to do a great deal of good." Mallory's eyes narrowed slightly. She was fishing. Bailey, I noticed, was listening intently, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. After dinner, as I served dessert, my homemade apple pie, I cleared my throat. The moment had arrived. "Everyone," I said, my voice calm, but with an underlying current that seemed to catch their attention. There's something I wanted to discuss. It's about estate matters. And my own will, actually. Edwin shifted uncomfortably. Mallory's head snapped up, her eyes suddenly gleaming with a greedy light. "Oh?" she said, trying to sound casual, but her excitement was palpable. "Are you making plans, Georgia? You're not ill, are you?" No, nothing like that," I reassured her, though the lie felt like a small, necessary betrayal. "Just getting my affairs in order. You know, after Susan's passing, it made me think. Life is unpredictable." Bailey surprisingly spoke up. "Aunt Georgia, are you going to leave us the old cottage? The one by the lake? It's so pretty." She'd always loved that place, a small vacation home I owned, which Susan had actually gifted me years ago. I looked at her, then at Mallory, whose face was now a mixture of feigned concern and barely concealed avarice. Edwin just looked bewildered. I took a slow, deliberate bite of my pie, savoring the taste. Then I looked up, meeting each of their gazes, one by one. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk touched my lips. "Well, Bailey," I began, my voice soft, almost conversational, "about my assets and my will. I've made some significant changes recently." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. After much thought, and with Susan's legacy in mind, I decided that most of my assets are going to women who needed kindness more than my family ever did. The silence that followed was deafening. Mallory's face, which had been eager, stiffened. Edwin's jaw dropped slightly. Bailey's eyes widened, a dawning comprehension in them. Trenton, who had been quietly observing, chose that precise moment to speak. His voice was clear, professional, cutting through the sudden tension like a knife. "Actually," he said, addressing the room, "as Georgia's attorney and executor, I'm bound by a specific clause in her revised will. In the event of what the will terms entitlement behaviors or undue inquiries into her finances, I am authorized to read aloud a particular letter from the will to ensure her wishes are understood and respected." He looked directly at Mallory, then at Edwin. "It seems that clause has been triggered." Mallory's face went white. The air in my dining room crackled. Mallory's face had gone from white to a mottled red, her eyes darting between me and Trenton, 38. Edwin, 46, looked like he'd been punched in the gut, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by a look of utter bewilderment and dawning horror. Bailey, 16, watched us, her expression a mix of confusion and fear. Joseph, 12, just kept his head down, quietly pushing pie crumbs around his plate. Trenton calmly reached into his inner jacket pocket and produced a sealed envelope. It was one of the letters I had penned months ago, the one addressed to Edwin and Mallory. He broke the seal with a crisp tearing sound that seemed impossibly loud in the silence. "This letter," Trenton began, his voice clear and resonant, "is from Georgia. It's addressed to Edwin and Mallory." He unfolded the single sheet of paper. Mallory opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Edwin just stared, frozen. Trenton began to read, his tone dispassionate, almost academic. To Edwin and Mallory. "For years, I have been a constant in your lives. I have provided financial support, emotional comfort, and a steady presence. When Edwin, then 45, called me a year ago, desperate for help with your mortgage and bills, I, then 47, did not hesitate. I have, to date, provided over $14,000 in direct financial assistance, not including numerous other gifts and favors. My generosity, however, was not given out of desperation for your affection, nor was it an attempt to buy love, as it has been characterized. It was given out of a genuine desire to help my family, particularly Bailey and Joseph, whom I love dearly. It has come to my attention through overheard conversations and subtle remarks that my kindness has been consistently misinterpreted and devalued. Specifically, at the family picnic a few months ago, I, then 48, overheard Bailey, then 16, tell a friend that her mother, Mallory, then 43, had described me as a sad old woman who buys people 'cause no one loves her. This sentiment, I understand, is a reflection of a long-standing narrative cultivated by Mallory and passively enabled by Edwin regarding my single status and independence. My decision regarding my estate is a direct consequence of this profound betrayal of trust and respect. My assets, including the significant inheritance from Susan Rose, will not be distributed to you nor to Edwin, Mallory, or Bailey. Instead, the entirety of my estate, including the cottage by the lake, has been legally assigned to the Haven House, a local women's shelter directed by Fatima Steele. This decision is not made out of anger, but out of a clear understanding that my resources are better directed to those who truly need kindness and who will appreciate it without twisting it into a narrative of pity or desperation. My peace, as a wise friend once told me, will not be left to those who stole it. I wish you well in your future endeavors. I hope, in time, you reflect on the true cost of taking kindness for granted. Sincerely, Georgia. The silence that followed was even heavier than before. Mallory finally found her voice, a strangled, furious sound. This is ridiculous. This is insane. You can't do this. She looked at Edwin, her eyes blazing. Edwin, say something. She's cutting us out. What about the kids? What about Bailey's college fund? What about the house? Edwin, 46, looked utterly sick. He tried to speak, but his voice was a weak croak. Georgia, is this true? I met his gaze, my own eyes calm and unwavering. Every word, I said, every single word. Mallory pushed back her chair, scraping it loudly against the floor. This is a joke. You're just trying to punish us. After everything we've done for you, Trenton interjected, his voice firm. Mallory, I assure you this is not a joke. Georgia's will has been legally executed. All assets are assigned. There is no recourse. Mallory stared at him, then at me, her face contorted with rage and disbelief. You manipulative, you old witch, she spat, then stormed out of the dining room, her footsteps thundering up the stairs. A moment later, we heard the front door slam. Edwin just sat there, slumped, his face pale. He looked utterly defeated. The charming, easygoing brother was gone, replaced by a shell of a man. He didn't even look at me. Bailey, 16, who had been listening with wide, tear-filled eyes, finally looked up. Her face was streaked with silent tears. She didn't say anything, just pushed her chair back and hurried out of the room, presumably to follow her mother. Only Joseph, 12, remained. He slowly looked up at me, his eyes earnest and a little scared. He hadn't said a word the entire time. Aunt Georgia, he whispered, his voice small. I looked at him, my heart aching a little for the innocent party in all of this. Yes, Joseph? He reached across the table and quietly took my hand. Thank you, he said, his voice barely audible. Thank you for always being kind to me. It was a small gesture, but it meant more than any inheritance. As Edwin finally pushed himself up and stumbled out of the room, leaving me and Trenton alone with the quiet, sweet boy, I knew I had made the right choice. The weeks that followed the dinner were quiet. The phone didn't ring. Edwin, 46, didn't call to apologize or to rage or to beg. Mallory, 43, certainly didn't. The monthly $200 payment I had been sending them for the past year and a half stopped, of course. I imagined the panic that must have set in, the scrambling, the desperate calculations. But that was their problem now. My obligation, my self-imposed burden, was lifted. My life, however, felt lighter, clearer. The inheritance from Susan, 71, was being managed by Trenton, 38, and a significant portion was already being put to use. I started volunteering more regularly at the Haven House, the women's shelter. It wasn't just about writing a check. It was about seeing the impact, feeling the direct connection to the lives I was helping to change. Fatima Steele, 39, the director of the shelter, was a force of nature. Her energy was infectious, her compassion boundless. We often sat in her small, cluttered office, sipping lukewarm coffee, and she'd tell me stories. Stories of women who arrived with nothing but the clothes on their backs, fleeing unimaginable situations. Stories of their resilience, their slow, steady steps towards rebuilding their lives. "Georgia," she told me one afternoon, her eyes shining, "your donation. It's been transformative. We've been able to expand our capacity by nearly 30%. That means beds for 27 more women and their children. We've established a full-time job training program, and we're even starting a small childcare center so mothers can attend workshops without worry." She introduced me to a young woman named Sarah, who was 28, a single mother of 2, escaping a violent relationship. Sarah was quiet, her eyes still holding a haunted look, but there was a spark of hope there too. She was enrolled in the job training program, learning administrative skills, and her children were thriving in the shelter's new play area. When Sarah looked at me, her gratitude was palpable, pure, and untainted by expectation or resentment. She didn't see a sad old woman. She saw a lifeline. I spent hours at the shelter helping with administrative tasks, organizing donations, sometimes just sitting and listening to the women share their stories. I saw strength, courage, and a profound appreciation for every small act of kindness. These women weren't asking for love. They were asking for safety, for a chance, for dignity, and they received it, not as a transaction, but as a right. I thought about my old life, about the constant subtle negotiations for acceptance within my own family. How I had, in my own way, begged for scraps of love, for validation, by being the ever-giving, ever-available aunt. How that generosity had been twisted into a sign of my perceived inadequacy. I used to believe that by giving, I was securing my place. Now, I understood that my place wasn't something to be secured by others. It was something I built for myself. My 49th birthday arrived a few months after the will reading. I didn't expect to hear from Edwin or Mallory, and I didn't, but a card arrived in the mail. It was a simple, store-bought card, not one of Bailey's usual elaborate handmade creations. Inside, in her familiar, slightly messy handwriting, were just 2 words, "I'm sorry." It was from Bailey, now 17, no explanation, no excuses, just those 2 words. I reread them, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor passing through me. It wasn't a grand apology, but it was a start. It was a crack in the carefully constructed wall Mallory had built around her. It showed that my niece, the child I'd always loved, was perhaps beginning to think for herself. I didn't call her. I didn't respond. The old Georgia might have rushed to bridge the gap, to offer forgiveness, to invite her back to the table. But the new Georgia understood that some bridges needed to be built from both sides, and some tables were no longer worth sitting at. This time, I didn't make room at my table. I built a new one, a bigger one, a table where kindness was a gift, freely given and genuinely received, without expectation or judgment. A table for women who understood the true value of a helping hand, because they knew what it was like to have no one. And at that table, I finally found my peace.
The pregnancy test stared back at me with its single mocking line. Negative. Again. My name is Robin, and I've been failing at the one thing women are supposedly designed to do for 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. But who's counting? Well, Wade's voice cut through the bathroom door like a blade. I opened the door, holding the test between us like evidence of my inadequacy. His jaw tightened, that familiar muscle jumping near his ear. Jesus, Robin, what's wrong with you? The question hung in the air between us, heavy and accusatory. What was wrong with me? That's what I'd been asking myself every month, every appointment, every time his mother looked at me with those pitying eyes. Maybe we should see Dr. Martinez again, I said quietly. Wade was already walking away. We've seen him 5 times. He said you're the problem. Your eggs, your hormones, your stress levels. He turned back to me, and I caught something cold in his expression. Maybe you need to accept that some women just aren't meant to be mothers. The words hit like a physical blow. I gripped the bathroom counter, my knuckles white against the marble. Wade, that's not... I'm going to Mom's for dinner. She's making pot roast. Of course he was. Rosalind's Sunday dinners had become a weekly tribunal, where I sat silent while she discussed her friend's grandchildren and Wade's cousin's twins, and how blessed some women were to have such fertile wombs. Should I come? I asked, though we both knew the answer. She only made enough for 2. The front door slammed 20 minutes later, leaving me alone with the negative pregnancy test and the growing certainty that I was disappearing from my own life. I called Stacy. He said, "What?" Her voice crackled through the phone, sharp with indignation. That some women aren't meant to be mothers. I was curled on our couch, the one Wade had picked out because it looked good in photos. Everything in our house looked good in photos. Robin, honey, that man is a walking red flag factory. You know that, right? I did know. Somewhere deep down, past the years of gaslighting and the constant chorus of "it's your fault" from both Wade and his mother, I knew. But knowing and accepting are different things. I just keep thinking, maybe if I try harder, eat better, stress less. Stop! Stacy's voice was firm. You've done everything. You've taken every vitamin, done every test, followed every diet. When was the last time Wade got tested? The question hit me like ice water. He got tested early on. Dr. Martinez said his numbers were fine. When exactly? And did you see the results? I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. When had Wade gotten tested? It was so early in our journey, back when we still held hands in waiting rooms, and he still kissed my forehead after disappointing appointments. I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3. Robin. Stacy's voice was gentle now. Honey, you need to see those results yourself. After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness of our living room, thinking about all the things I'd never questioned. Wade's reluctance to go to appointments, his insistence that Dr. Martinez focus on me, the way he'd grown distant and cruel as the months passed, as if my inability to conceive was a personal insult to his manhood. The next morning, I called Dr. Martinez's office. I'd like to request copies of all our test results, I told the receptionist. Both mine and my husband's. Of course, Mrs. Scott. We'll have those ready this afternoon. My hands shook as I drove to the clinic. 3 years of believing I was broken, that my body was failing us both. 3 years of Wade's increasing coldness, his mother's passive-aggressive comments, the growing certainty that I was less than a woman. The manila envelope felt impossibly heavy in my hands. I sat in my car in the parking lot and opened it. My results first. Pages of numbers and medical terminology that had become as familiar as my own name. Hormone levels, egg counts, ovulation tracking. All normal. All within acceptable ranges. Then Wade's results. The paper trembled in my hands as I read the words that would change everything. Severe oligospermia with azoospermia. Patient shows complete absence of viable sperm. Condition appears to be congenital and permanent. I read it again. And again. Wade was sterile. Completely, permanently sterile. The date on the report was 4 years ago. A full year before we'd even started trying. I sat in that parking lot, staring at the medical proof of my husband's lie, and whispered the question that would haunt me for months. So then who? 3 months? That's how long I'd been living with Wade's lie, watching him blame me for our childless marriage, while knowing the truth sat locked in my desk drawer like a loaded gun. "You seem different lately," Wade said over breakfast, not looking up from his phone. "More, I don't know, relaxed." I buttered my toast carefully. Maybe I'm finally accepting things. Good. All that stress wasn't helping anyway. He stood, straightening his tie. "I might be late tonight. Big client dinner." "Of course." I smiled sweetly. "Have fun." The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I was on the phone. "Stacy, I need to see you. Today." We met at our usual coffee shop, the one where Wade would never think to look for me. Stacy took one look at my face and ordered us both double shots. "You found something." I slid the medical report across the table. Watched her eyes widen as she read. "Holy shit, Robin. He's been lying for 4 years? Gets better. I've been tracking his phone." I pulled out my laptop, opened the app I'd secretly installed. Look at his location history. Red dots scattered across the map like a constellation of betrayal. The gym he claimed to visit but never did. Restaurants during his supposed work meetings. And one address that appeared over and over again. "Whose place is that?" Stacy asked. "I'm going to find out." That afternoon, I drove to the address. A trendy apartment complex downtown, the kind Wade always said was too expensive for young professionals. I sat in my car, waiting. At 3:47 p.m., Wade's BMW pulled into the parking garage. At 4:15 p.m., he emerged with a woman. She was young, mid-20s maybe, with long dark hair and the kind of effortless beauty that made my chest tight. But it wasn't her looks that made me grip the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. It was her rounded belly, unmistakably pregnant under her flowing dress. I followed them to a boutique baby store, watched through the window as Wade's hand rested possessively on her stomach while she cooed over tiny onesies. The same man who'd spent 3 years telling me I was broken, that I was failing him, was playing happy father-to-be with someone else. Someone carrying a child that couldn't possibly be his. My phone buzzed. A text from Wade. "Client dinner running late. Don't wait up." I screenshotted it, adding it to the folder I'd been building. Evidence, proof, ammunition. That evening, I called Max. "Robin? Wow, it's been what, 10 years? 11. Since college." I took a breath. "I need a lawyer, Max. A good one." "What kind of trouble are you in?" "The kind where my husband has been gaslighting me about infertility while cheating with a pregnant woman." Silence. Then, "Jesus, can you meet me tomorrow?" Max's office was everything Wade's wasn't. Understated, professional, honest. He listened without interruption as I laid out everything. The medical records, the location tracking, the photos I'd taken of Wade with his pregnant girlfriend. "This is comprehensive," he said finally. "How long have you been planning this?" "I'm not planning anything yet. I'm just preparing." "For what?" I met his eyes. "I don't know, but when I figure it out, I want to be ready." Max leaned back in his chair. "Robin, I have to ask, are you sure you want to go down this road? Revenge can get messy, expensive, and it might not give you the satisfaction you think it will." He let me believe I was broken for 3 years, Max. He watched me blame myself, hate myself, while he was out playing house with someone else, with a baby that isn't even his. "How do you know it's not his?" I slid the medical report across his desk. "Because he's sterile. Completely. Has been since before we even met." Max whistled low. So either she's cheating too, or he lied to her about being the father. That's actually worse. I nodded. I know. That night, Wade came home smelling like expensive perfume and lies. He kissed my cheek like nothing had changed. How was your day, babe? Quiet. I missed you. He smiled, the same charming smile that had fooled me for 7 years. I missed you too. Maybe we should plan something special soon. A weekend away? That sounds perfect. I watched him scroll through his phone, probably texting her. The woman who thought she was carrying his child. The woman who had no idea she was just another victim in Wade's web of lies. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Is this Robin? This is Tabitha. I think we need to talk. I stared at the message, my heart hammering. She knew. Somehow, she knew about me. Wade looked up from his phone. Everything okay? Just Stacy, I said, deleting the message. Girl drama. But as I lay in bed that night, listening to Wade's steady breathing beside me, I couldn't stop thinking about that text. About the pregnant woman who shared my husband's lies. And about the receipt I'd found in his jacket pocket that morning for a 7-carat diamond ring from Tiffany. I stared at Tabitha's text for 3 days before responding. Coffee? Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Grind coffee on 5th Street. Her reply came instantly. I'll be there. The next afternoon, I spotted her immediately. Even 6 months pregnant, she was stunning in that effortless way that made other women hate themselves. She'd chosen a corner table, her hands wrapped around a mug like it was an anchor. Robin? Her voice was smaller than I'd expected. That's me. I sat across from her, studying her face. You wanted to talk. I know about you, about Wade being married. She looked down at her belly. I didn't know at first, I swear. When I found out, I told him to leave you. How noble. Her cheeks flushed. I'm not proud of this. But he said you two were separated, that you'd grown apart, that you were just going through the motions until the divorce was final. And you believed him? He showed me papers, separation documents. Her voice cracked. They looked real. I pulled out my phone, showed her a photo from last week. Wade and me at his company barbecue, his arm around my waist, both of us smiling. Does this look separated to you? She stared at the photo, her face crumbling. Oh God. Oh God. What have I done? You've been lied to? Just like me. I leaned forward. Tabitha, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. When did you and Wade start sleeping together? 8 months ago. Why? And when did you get pregnant? About 6 months ago. She touched her belly protectively. Wade was so happy when I told him. He said he'd been trying for years with you, but that you couldn't. She trailed off, realization dawning. Couldn't what? He said you couldn't have children, that it was a medical issue. I laughed, sharp and bitter. He told you I was infertile? Yes. He said it was really hard on your marriage, that you blamed yourself, but that he'd accepted it and moved on. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. Robin, I'm so sorry. I thought I was giving him something you couldn't. Tabitha. I reached across the table, covered her hand with mine. Wade is sterile, completely sterile. Has been for years. Her face went white. That's impossible. I'm carrying his baby. No, you're not. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I watched her process the information, saw the exact moment the truth hit her. But if he can't, then who? She pressed her hands to her mouth. Oh my God, Ryan. Ryan? My ex. We hooked up one night about 7 months ago. Just once. I was drunk and lonely, and Wade was out of town for work. She was hyperventilating now. But Wade said the timing was perfect, that we'd made this baby together. He even bought me a ring. My stomach dropped. A ring? She held up her left hand. A 7-carat diamond caught the afternoon light, identical to the receipt I'd found. He proposed last week, said he wanted to make it official before the baby came. Her voice was barely a whisper. Robin, what kind of man does this? What kind of person lies about being a father? The kind who's been lying about everything else for years. I told her about the medical records, the gaslighting, the 3 years of believing I was broken. By the end, we were both crying. We have to tell him we know, she said. Do we? She looked at me sharply. What do you mean? I mean, maybe we don't show our cards yet. Maybe we see how far he's willing to take this lie. Robin, I can't keep pretending. This baby, Ryan deserves to know. And he will. But Wade doesn't know that we know about each other. He doesn't know that we've figured out his game. I leaned forward. His father's 70th birthday is next week. Big family party. Wade's been planning it for months. So imagine if the whole family found out the truth at once. About the lies, the cheating, the fake pregnancy claims. Tabitha stared at me. You want revenge. I want justice. There's a difference. Is there? He destroyed 3 years of my life, Tabitha. Made me hate my own body, question my worth as a woman. And he's doing the same thing to you, just differently. I met her eyes. How many other women do you think there have been? How many other lies? She was quiet for a long moment. What are you proposing? Come to the party. Let Wade introduce you to his family as his pregnant fiancé. Let him bask in their congratulations. And then? Then we tell them the truth. All of it. That's cruel. So is lying to your wife for 3 years. So is convincing a pregnant woman that you're her baby's father when you know you're not. Tabitha touched her ring, twisting it around her finger. What if this backfires? What if we're the ones who end up looking like the villains? Then at least we'll be honest villains. She laughed despite herself. You're scarier than I thought. Good. Wade should be scared. That night, Wade came home with flowers and takeout from my favorite restaurant. What's the occasion? I asked. Can't I spoil my wife? He kissed my forehead. I know things have been hard lately, with the baby stuff. I just want you to know I love you no matter what. I love you too, I said, accepting the flowers. Later, as he slept beside me, I got a text from Tabitha. I'm in. But I want to tell Ryan first. He deserves to know before everyone else. I typed back, agreed. This ends at the party. Promise me something, Robin. Promise me that after this, we both walk away clean. No more games, no more lies. I stared at her message for a long time before responding. I promise. But as I hit send, I wondered if that was a promise I could keep. Carson's 70th birthday party was everything Rosalind had promised. Elegant, expensive, and designed to showcase the family's success. The country club's private dining room buzzed with relatives I hadn't seen in years, all gathered to celebrate the patriarch who'd built the family business from nothing. I arrived alone, wearing the black cocktail dress Wade had bought me for our anniversary. He'd texted earlier, running late, start without me. Robin, darling, Rosalind swept over, air-kissing my cheeks. You look lovely, though perhaps a bit thin. Are you eating enough? I'm fine, Rosalind. Thank you. Of course you are. Her smile was sharp. Wade mentioned he might have a surprise for us tonight. Something about finally having good news to share? My stomach clenched. Did he? Oh, yes. After all these years of disappointment, it seems things are finally looking up for you two. She patted my arm condescendingly. I always said patience was a virtue. I excused myself to the bar, ordering a double whiskey. Around me, Wade's family mingled and laughed, completely unaware that their golden boy was about to shatter their perfect evening. At 8:30, Wade burst through the doors with Tabitha on his arm. She looked radiant in emerald green, her pregnancy glow undeniable. The room fell silent as Wade guided her to the center of the gathering. Everyone, please! Wade raised his champagne glass. I have an announcement to make. Carson looked up from his cake, eyebrows raised. Rosalind clasped her hands together, practically vibrating with excitement. As you all know, Robin and I have been trying to start a family for years. Wade's voice carried across the room. It's been challenging, but sometimes life has a way of surprising you. He pulled Tabitha closer, his hand resting on her belly. I'd like you all to meet Tabitha. She's carrying my son. The room erupted. Congratulations flew from every corner. Rosalind rushed forward, embracing Tabitha like she was the daughter she'd always wanted. Carson stood slowly, a rare smile creasing his weathered face. Finally, Rosalind exclaimed, a grandson. Carson, we're going to be grandparents. About time, Carson said gruffly, but his eyes were warm as he shook Wade's hand. Wade basked in the attention, his chest puffed with pride. We wanted to share this with family first. Robin's been so supportive through this transition. All eyes turned to me. I raised my glass with a smile that felt like broken glass in my mouth. To new beginnings, I said. To new beginnings, the room echoed. Wade continued his performance. You know, for years I blamed myself for our struggles. Wondered if maybe I was the problem. But Tabitha proved that wrong, didn't you, sweetheart? Tabitha's smile faltered slightly. Wade? No, it's okay. We can be honest here. These are family. He turned back to the crowd. Sometimes it just takes the right woman to bring out a man's potential. Finally, a real woman who can give me what I've always wanted. The words hit like a slap. Several relatives shifted uncomfortably. Even Rosalind looked taken aback by his cruelty. Wade, Carson's voice was warning. What? I'm just being honest. Robin tried her best, but some women just aren't built for motherhood. It's nobody's fault. That was my cue. I walked to the front of the room, pulling out my phone. You know what, Wade? You're absolutely right. Some people just aren't built for certain things. Robin, what are you doing? I connected my phone to the room's projection system, the same one they'd used for Carson's photo slideshow earlier. I thought everyone should see something, since we're being so honest tonight. The first slide appeared on the wall. Wade's medical records, enlarged for everyone to read. Severe oligospermia with azoospermia, I read aloud. Complete absence of viable sperm. Condition appears to be congenital and permanent. The room went dead silent. Robin, stop this right now, Wade hissed. Oh, but we're just getting started. I clicked to the next slide. This report is dated 4 years ago, Wade. A full year before we even started trying for a baby. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Tabitha's hand flew to her mouth. You've known you were sterile for 4 years. You let me believe I was broken. You let me hate myself, blame myself, while you knew the entire time that you were the problem. This is insane, Wade sputtered. You're having some kind of breakdown. Am I? I clicked to the final slide. A photo of Wade and Tabitha at the baby boutique, his hand on her pregnant belly. Because this photo was taken 3 weeks ago, which means either you've experienced a medical miracle. I turned to face Tabitha, whose face had gone white as paper. Or this baby isn't yours. The room exploded into chaos. Rosalind screamed. Carson stood up so fast his chair toppled over. Wade lunged for my phone, but I was already backing toward the door. The medical report is dated before you met Tabitha, I called out over the noise. Which means you knew you couldn't be the father when you proposed to her. You knew, and you lied anyway. You vindictive bitch, Wade roared. You're destroying everything. No, Wade, I'm just telling the truth. Tabitha was sobbing now, her hands pressed to her belly. Wade, is this real? Are you really sterile? Wade's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Around us, his family stared in horror and disgust. Carson's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Get out! Dad, I can explain. I said, get out. Both of you. Carson's eyes were cold as winter. You've disgraced this family enough for one night. I walked toward the door, my head high. As I passed Tabitha, I whispered, call Ryan. Tell him the truth. She nodded through her tears. Wade followed me into the parking lot, his face twisted with rage. You think you've won? You think this changes anything? It changes everything. I'll destroy you for this. I'll take everything you have. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. What are you going to take, Wade? The house you put in your name? The car you bought? The friends who never liked me anyway? I shook my head. You already took everything that mattered. My self-respect, my confidence, 3 years of my life. But you know what you can't take? What? The truth. And now everyone knows it. I got in my car and drove away, leaving Wade standing alone in the parking lot, his perfect facade finally crumbling around him. The fallout started before I even made it home. My phone buzzed constantly during the 20-minute drive. Calls, texts, voicemails piling up like digital debris from the explosion I'd just detonated. I let them all go to voicemail until I was safely inside my house, doors locked, curtains drawn. Then I listened. Robin, it's Aunt Margaret. I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry, honey. We had no idea. This is your cousin Jake. Holy shit, Robin. Holy crap. Sorry. But wow. Are you okay? Robin, this is Roslyn. Her voice was ice-cold fury. What you did tonight was unforgivable. You've destroyed this family with your jealousy and lies. Don't expect any support from us. Delete. Hey, it's Uncle Pete. Listen, I know tonight was rough, but Wade's family, you know? Maybe you could have handled this differently. Just saying. Delete. The messages went on like that. Half the family apologizing, half blaming me for airing dirty laundry in public. But it was the text messages that really told the story. Wade's cousin Sarah. OMG, Robin. I'm so sorry. I always thought something was off about how he talked about you. Wade's brother, Mike. You're a psycho bitch and you just ruined an old man's birthday. Hope you're proud. Wade's sister Lisa. I don't know what to believe anymore. This is all so messed up. And then at 11:47 p.m., a text from Carson himself. Come see me tomorrow. We need to talk. I was still staring at that message when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Stacy holding a bottle of wine and a bag of takeout. I brought reinforcements, she said when I opened the door. How did you know? Are you kidding? Half the town's talking about it already. Wade's cousin posted about it on Facebook before deleting it an hour later. But screenshots are forever, baby. We sat on my couch, eating Chinese food and drinking wine while Stacy scrolled through her phone. Okay, so the general consensus seems to be that you're either a hero or a villain, with very little middle ground. She showed me her screen. But the hero camp is definitely winning. I don't feel like a hero. Good. Heroes are boring. You feel like a woman who finally fought back. My phone rang. Wade's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer it, Stacy said. I answered it anyway, putting it on speaker. Robin. Wade's voice was strained, exhausted. We need to talk. I think we've said enough. Please. Just please. Can I come over? Absolutely not. Then meet me somewhere. Anywhere. I need to explain. Explain what? How you're secretly fertile? How those medical records are fake? How you didn't spend 3 years letting me believe I was broken while you cheated on me? Silence. That's what I thought, I said, and hung up. But the calls didn't stop. Wade called 6 more times that night. I blocked his number. Okay. The next morning, I drove to Carson's house. Wade's father lived in the same modest ranch he'd bought 40 years ago, refusing to move despite his success. He answered the door in his work clothes, even though it was Saturday. Come in. Coffee? Please. We sat at his kitchen table. The same one where I'd eaten countless family dinners, listening to Rosalind criticize everything from my cooking to my career choices. "I owe you an apology," Carson said finally. "You don't owe me anything. I do. I knew something was wrong. The way Wade talked about you, the way Rosalind treated you. I should have said something. It wasn't your place. It was your family. Or you were." He sipped his coffee. "I called Wade this morning, told him he's got 1 week to move his things out of the house." I blinked. "What?" "The house is in my name. Did you know that? Wade never could qualify for the mortgage on his own. Too much debt, not enough credit." Carson's smile was grim. "I'm transferring it to you. Consider it back payment for 3 years of hell." "Carson, I can't accept that." "You can and you will. It's the least I can do." He leaned forward. "Robin, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Is there more? More lies? More secrets?" I thought about Tabitha, about Ryan, about the baby that wasn't Wade's. "Yes." "How much more?" "Enough to bury him." Carson nodded slowly. "Good. He deserves to be buried." That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "This is Sage, Tabitha's friend. Can we meet? I think you should know who the real father is." I stared at the message. Tabitha had mentioned Sage before, her best friend since college, the one person she trusted completely. I texted back, "When and where?" "Tonight, 7 p.m., brew house on Main Street. Come alone." The brew house was crowded for a Saturday night, but I spotted Sage immediately. She looked like Tabitha's opposite, short where Tabitha was tall, blonde where Tabitha was brunette, sharp where Tabitha was soft. "You must be Robin." She didn't offer to shake hands. "Sit." I sat. "Tabitha's a mess. Has been since last night. She called Ryan, told him about the baby. He's flying in from Denver tomorrow. Good. He deserves to know." "Does he? Because here's what you don't know. Tabitha's been lying too." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "She knew Wade was married. Has known for months. I told her to stay away from him, but she was convinced he was going to leave you." Sage leaned forward. "She also knew about the sterility thing." "That's impossible." She was shocked when I told her. "She's a good actress. Always has been." Sage pulled out her phone, showed me a screenshot of a text conversation. "Look at the date on this." The texts were between Sage and Tabitha, dated 3 weeks before our coffee meeting. "Sage, you need to tell him the baby isn't his." Tabitha, "He knows. He has to know. Men aren't stupid." Sage, "Tab, he's sterile. You showed me his medical records yourself." Tabitha, "So? Maybe he just wants to be a dad. Maybe this is his chance." I stared at the screen, my world tilting again. She knew. She knew he was sterile, and she let him claim the baby anyway. Gets worse. She's been planning to hit him up for child support once the baby's born. Figured a rich, sterile guy would pay anything to keep his miracle baby secret. And Ryan? Ryan's broke. Works construction, lives paycheck to paycheck. Tabitha figured she could get more money out of Wade than she ever could from the real father. I sat back in my chair, feeling sick. So they were both using each other. Pretty much. Except Wade thought he was the one running the con. "Why are you telling me this?" Sage's expression softened slightly. "Because Tabitha's my best friend. But what she did to you was wrong. And because I think you should know the whole truth before you decide what to do next." "What do you mean?" "I mean Tabitha got an invitation today. To her own baby shower. Guess who's throwing it?" My blood ran cold. "Rosalind?" "Bingo. And guess who's listed as the guest of honor alongside the mother-to-be? Wade. They're trying to rehabilitate his image, make it look like he's stepping up, being responsible. Rosalind's telling everyone that you had a breakdown, that you made up the sterility thing out of jealousy." I closed my eyes. Of course they were. Of course Rosalind would find a way to make Wade the victim and me the villain. When's the shower? Next Saturday, 2 o'clock. Country club. Same place as last night. I opened my eyes, meeting Sage's gaze. Are you going? Wouldn't miss it. Question is, are you? I smiled, feeling that familiar fire building in my chest. I think I am. The baby shower invitation arrived on Wednesday, hand-delivered by courier. Cream cardstock with gold embossing, Rosalind's signature touch for important events. Join us in celebrating the upcoming arrival of baby Scott, it read, hosted by Rosalind Scott, in honor of Tabitha Ramos and Wade Scott. At the bottom, in Rosalind's perfect script, Robin, as Wade's former wife, your presence would mean so much during this joyous transition. RSVP regrets only. Former wife. The audacity was breathtaking. I called Max immediately. They're what now? His voice crackled through the phone. Throwing a baby shower for Wade and his pregnant girlfriend, and they invited me to attend as the former wife. Jesus Christ, Robin. These people have no shame. Gets better. I talked to Sage again yesterday. Tabitha's been telling people that Wade's stepping up to raise another man's child out of the goodness of his heart, making him look like a saint. And you're the bitter ex-wife who couldn't handle his generosity? Exactly. Max was quiet for a moment. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time to finish this. Robin, be careful. You already dropped one bomb. If you keep pushing, you might end up looking vindictive. I might. But they're banking on me staying quiet, letting them rewrite history. Rosalind's already telling people I had a mental breakdown. Did she actually say that? Wade's cousin Lisa called me yesterday. Said Rosalind's been making the rounds, telling everyone I fabricated the medical records out of jealousy, that I couldn't handle Wade finding happiness with someone else. That's defamation. It's also working. Half the family thinks I'm unstable. I could hear Max typing. Okay, here's what we do. If you're going to this thing, you go prepared. Document everything. Record conversations if it's legal in your state. It is. Good. But Robin, promise me something. Whatever you're planning, make sure it's about truth, not revenge. The moment this becomes personal vendetta, you lose the moral high ground. It stopped being personal the moment they invited me to celebrate Wade's fake fatherhood. That Saturday, I spent an hour getting ready. Not for Wade or his family, but for myself. I chose a simple blue dress that made my eyes pop, styled my hair in loose waves, applied makeup with a steady hand. If I was going to walk into enemy territory, I was going to look like I belonged there. Stacy texted as I was leaving. You sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. The country club's garden room was decorated in soft yellows and greens, gender neutral, since Tabitha claimed she wanted to be surprised. Rosalind had outdone herself with the details. Elaborate floral arrangements, a dessert table that looked like something from a magazine, and a gift table already overflowing with expensive baby gear. I arrived fashionably late, scanning the room as I entered. About 30 women, mostly Wade's relatives and family friends. Tabitha sat in the center like a queen, radiant in a flowing white dress, opening presents while Wade hovered nearby, playing the devoted, almost stepfather. Robin! Rosalind's voice carried across the room. How wonderful that you could make it. Every conversation stopped. 30 pairs of eyes turned to me, some curious, some hostile, all waiting to see what the crazy ex-wife would do. I wouldn't have missed it, I said, walking over to Tabitha. Congratulations. You look absolutely glowing. Thank you. Tabitha's smile was cautious. That's very kind of you to say. Pregnancy suits you. When are you due again? 6 weeks. How exciting. And Wade, you must be over the moon. Your first child? Wade's jaw tightened. Yes, my first. After all those years of trying. It must feel like a miracle. It does. I turned back to Tabitha. Have you picked out names yet? We're still deciding. She glanced at Wade nervously. I'm sure you'll choose something perfect, something that honors the baby's heritage. I smiled sweetly. Speaking of which, have you told Ryan the good news yet? The room went dead silent. Tabitha's face drained of color. I'm sorry. Who? Wade asked, but his voice had gone tight. Ryan Rogers, the baby's father. I looked around the room at the shocked faces. Oh, did I say something wrong? I thought everyone knew. Robin, what are you doing? Roslyn hissed. I'm just making conversation. Ryan's such a sweet guy. I met him last week when he flew in from Denver. He's so excited about becoming a dad. Tabitha stood up abruptly, her hands shaking. I need some air. Of course you do, honey. I touched her arm gently. This must be overwhelming. Finding out your fiancé has been lying to everyone about being your baby's father. That's enough. Wade stepped forward. You need to leave. Now. Do I? Because Roslyn invited me. As your former wife. I emphasized the word former. Though I have to say, Wade, I'm impressed. Taking on another man's child, pretending it's yours, letting everyone celebrate your virility when you know you're shooting blanks. That takes real commitment to the lie. You're insane, Roslyn sputtered. Wade, call security. Actually, before you do that, there's something else everyone should know. I pulled out my phone. Tabitha, would you like to tell them, or should I? Tell us what? Wade's Aunt Carol asked. Tabitha was crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. Robin, please don't. Don't what? Don't tell them that you've known Wade was sterile for months? That you've been planning to use his infertility to secure child support for a baby that isn't his? The room erupted. Women started talking over each other, voices rising in shock and confusion. That's not true, Wade shouted. Isn't it? I looked at Saj, who had been sitting quietly in the back. Saj, didn't Tabitha show you Wade's medical records weeks ago? Didn't she tell you she was planning to milk this for all it's worth? Saj stood up slowly. I'm sorry, Tab. But yeah, she did. Tabitha collapsed back into her chair, sobbing. I never meant for it to go this far. I needed help. Ryan can't support a baby. Wade has money. So you decided to con him? He was conning me too. He told me he loved me, that he was going to leave his wife. He used me just as much as I used him. Wade's face was purple with rage. You lying bitch. I never said I'd leave Robin for you. You bought me a ring. I bought you a ring to keep you quiet. The truth hung in the air like poison gas. Around us, Wade's family and friends stared in horror at the spectacle unfolding before them. Carson's voice cut through the chaos from the doorway. What in the hell's going on here? Everyone turned. Wade's father stood in the entrance, still in his work clothes, his face thunderous. Dad, I can explain. No. Carson's voice was ice. You can't, because there's no explanation for this circus. He walked over to Tabitha, who was still crying in her chair. Young lady, is this baby Wade's or not? No, she whispered. It's not. Carson nodded once, then turned to his son. And you knew this? Wade's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Dad, answer the question. Did you know this baby wasn't yours? I suspected. You suspected. Carson's laugh was bitter. You suspected, and you let your mother throw a party anyway. You let her spend money, invite people, celebrate a lie. He turned to face the room. This party is over. Everyone go home. As the guests filed out in shocked silence, Carson walked over to me. I'm sorry you had to be the one to do this, Robin, but I'm glad someone finally told the truth. So am I said. Wade grabbed my arm as I headed for the door. This isn't over. I looked down at his hand. then back at his face. Yes, it is. I'll destroy you for this. With what? Your credibility? I pulled free of his grip. You already destroyed yourself, Wade. I just made sure everyone could see it. As I walked out of the country club for the second time in a week, I heard Rosalind screaming at someone to clean up the mess. But I knew some messes can't be cleaned up. Some messes are permanent. The aftermath of the baby shower spread through town like wildfire. By Monday morning, 3 different people had called to tell me about Wade's meltdown at Murphy's bar the night before, where he'd apparently gotten drunk and started a fight with 2 guys who made jokes about his shooting blanks. I was having coffee with Stacy when my phone rang. Tabitha's name flashed on the screen. Should I answer it? I asked. Put it on speaker. I want to hear this. Robin? Tabitha's voice was small, exhausted. Can we meet? Please? I know you have no reason to help me, but I'm scared. Scared of what? Wade's been calling me nonstop since Saturday. Threatening me. He says if I don't back up his story about the baby being his, he'll make sure Ryan never gets to see his child. Stacy and I exchanged glances. What story? He wants me to tell people that the paternity test was wrong, that there was a mix-up at the lab. He's offering me $50,000 to lie for him. And if you don't? He says he'll claim I'm an unfit mother, that he'll use his family's money and connections to take the baby away from both me and Ryan. Can he do that? I don't know, but I can't risk it. This baby is all I have left. I closed my eyes. Even now, even after everything, Wade was still manipulating people, still trying to control the narrative. Where do you want to meet? The park on Elm Street, by the playground. In an hour? I'll be there. Tabitha was sitting on a bench when I arrived, her hands resting on her enormous belly. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Thank you for coming, she said, as I sat beside her. What do you need from me? I need to know if you think Wade would really try to take my baby. I considered the question. The Wade I knew 3 years ago? No, but the Wade who's been exposed as a liar and a fraud? Who's lost his family's respect, and probably his job? Yes. I think he's desperate enough to try anything. She started crying again. I'm so sorry, Robin. For all of it. For sleeping with your husband. For lying about knowing he was sterile. For being part of this whole mess. Why did you do it? Really? Because I'm 26 years old, I work at a coffee shop, and I live in a studio apartment with a broken air conditioner. When Wade told me he loved me, that he wanted to take care of me and the baby, it felt like winning the lottery. She wiped her eyes. I know that makes me sound awful. It makes you sound human. Ryan's a good guy, but he can barely take care of himself. I thought maybe if Wade believed the baby was his, I could give my child a better life. And now I realize I was just trading one lie for another. And my baby deserves better than that. A group of kids ran past us, chasing a soccer ball. Tabitha watched them with a wistful expression. What are you going to do? I asked. Tell the truth. All of it. Ryan deserves to know he's going to be a father, and this baby deserves to know who his real dad is. Even if Wade follows through on his threats? Even then. She turned to me. But I need your help with something. What? Wade's planning something for tonight. Some kind of family meeting at his parents' house. He called me this morning, said he was going to set the record straight about everything. My stomach dropped. What kind of meeting? I don't know, but he sounded different. Manic, like he's planning something big. She grabbed my arm. Robin, I think he's going to try to pin all of this on you. Make it look like you orchestrated everything out of jealousy. Let him try. The truth is the truth. Is it enough, though? What if his family believes him? What if they think you manipulated me into lying about the paternity? I hadn't considered that possibility, but now that she'd said it, I could see how Wade might spin it. The bitter, infertile wife who couldn't stand to see her husband happy with someone else. Who convinced his pregnant girlfriend to lie about paternity out of spite. What time is this meeting? 7 o'clock. At Carson and Rosalind's house. I checked my watch. It was already 5:30. Tabitha, I need you to do something for me. Call Ryan. Tell him to get on the next flight here. Tonight. Why? Because if Wade's planning to rewrite history, we need the real father here to tell his side of the story. She nodded, already pulling out her phone. What are you going to do? I'm going to that meeting. Robin, that's not safe. Wade's not thinking clearly. And Rosalind? She blames you for everything. Good. Let them blame me. Let them try to make me the villain. I stood up, feeling that familiar fire building in my chest. But they're going to hear the truth whether they like it or not. You don't have to do this alone. I'll come with you. No. You need to stay away from Wade until Ryan gets here. Go to Saij's house. Stay there until this is over. She struggled to her feet, her hand on her back. Robin, thank you for everything. I know I don't deserve your help, but we all make mistakes, Tabitha. The question is what we do about them afterward. I drove home to change clothes and gather my evidence, the medical records, the photos, the text messages, everything I'd collected over the past few months. If Wade wanted a final confrontation, I'd give him one. But this time, I wouldn't be going in unprepared. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Ryan. Tabitha told me everything. I'm on a plane. Landing at 9 p.m. Don't let them do anything until I get there. I texted back. I'll try. But Wade's not waiting for anyone anymore. At 6:45, I pulled into Carson and Rosalind's driveway. Every light in the house was on, and I could see figures moving around inside. Wade's car was there, along with several others I recognized. His siblings, his aunts and uncles. The whole family, gathered for what Wade probably thought would be his redemption. I sat in my car for a moment, steeling myself for what was coming. Then I grabbed my folder of evidence and walked up to the front door. It was time to finish this. Rosalind answered the door before I could knock, her face a mask of cold fury. You have some nerve showing up here. Wade invited the whole family. I'm still technically family until the divorce is final. She stepped aside reluctantly, and I walked into a living room full of hostile faces. Wade stood by the fireplace like he was holding court, his siblings and cousins arranged around him in a protective semicircle. Carson sat in his recliner, looking older than his 70 years. Robin? Wade's voice was dangerously calm. How good of you to join us. Wouldn't miss it. I hear you're planning to set the record straight. That's exactly what I'm doing. He gestured to his audience. I've been telling everyone how you manipulated that poor girl into lying about the baby's paternity. How you coached her to destroy my reputation out of jealousy. Is that what you think happened? I know that's what happened. Tabitha called me an hour ago, crying, saying you threatened her. Told her you'd ruin her life if she didn't go along with your sick revenge fantasy. The room murmured with disapproval. I could see it in their faces. They wanted to believe Wade's version. It was easier than accepting that their golden boy was a fraud. That's interesting, I said, because Tabitha called me too. Want to know what she said? More lies, I'm sure. I pulled out my phone, held it up. Actually, I recorded our conversation. Would you like me to play it? Wade's confident expression flickered. You can't record someone without their consent. I can in this state. One-party consent law. I looked around the room. Should I play it, or would you prefer to tell them the truth yourself? There's nothing to tell. You're a bitter, vindictive woman who can't accept that I've moved on. Moved on to what? A pregnant woman carrying another man's child? A woman you've been bribing to lie for you? That's enough, Rosalind snapped. We've heard enough of your poison. Have you? Because there's so much more. I opened my folder. pulled out a stack of papers. Bank records showing Wade withdrew $50,000 in cash yesterday. Phone records showing 47 calls to Tabitha since Saturday. And my personal favorite? I held up a printed email. Wade's resignation letter from his job. Turns out his company doesn't appreciate employees who create public scandals. Wade lunged forward. Give me that. Why? It's public record now. Just like the restraining order Tabitha filed against you this afternoon. The room went dead silent. Carson's voice cut through the quiet like a blade. She did what? Filed a restraining order. Apparently, threatening to take someone's baby away unless they lie for you is considered harassment. I looked directly at Wade. Who knew? You turned her against me, Wade snarled. You poisoned her mind. I didn't have to. You did that all by yourself. The front door opened, and Saige walked in with a man I'd never seen before. Tall, sandy-haired, with calloused hands and worried eyes. Sorry we're late, Saige said. Traffic from the airport was murder. Wade stared at the newcomer. Who the hell are you? Ryan Rogers. His voice was steady, calm. The father of Tabitha's baby. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. That's impossible, Roslyn whispered. Is it? Ryan pulled out his phone, showed a photo of himself with Tabitha, both of them laughing at what looked like a bar. This was taken 8 months ago, about a month before she met your son. Wade's face went white. You're lying. Am I? Because I've got the paternity test results right here. Ryan held up an official-looking document. 99.9% probability that I'm the father. Want to see? This is ridiculous, Wade said, but his voice had lost its conviction. Even if the baby isn't mine, I was trying to do the right thing. Trying to give it a good home. By lying to everyone? Carson stood up slowly. By letting your mother throw parties and spend money celebrating a grandchild that doesn't exist? Dad, by threatening the mother of that child when she tried to tell the truth? Wade's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Ryan stepped forward. For what it's worth, Tabitha told me everything. How you convinced her you were separated. How you made her believe you loved her. How you knew the baby wasn't yours but claimed it anyway. She's lying. Is she? Because she also told me about the money. The $50,000 you offered her to keep lying. Ryan's voice hardened. My son isn't for sale. Your son? Wade laughed bitterly. You think you can just show up and play daddy? You don't have any money. You can't give that kid anything. I can give him the truth. I can give him a father who doesn't lie to him every day of his life. Carson walked over to Wade, his face etched with disappointment. Get out. Dad, please, get out of my house. Get out of this family. You've disgraced us enough. Wade looked around the room desperately, searching for an ally. He found none. Even Roslyn had turned away from him. This isn't over, he said, looking at me with pure hatred. Yes, it is. I held up my phone again. Because I've been recording this whole conversation too, and if you come near me, or Tabitha, or Ryan, or that baby, I'll make sure everyone hears exactly what kind of man you really are. Wade stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The room sat in stunned silence until Carson spoke. Robin, I owe you an apology. We all do. No, you don't. You believed your son. That's what families do. We believed his lies. There's a difference. Ryan cleared his throat. Is Tabitha okay? Sage said she was pretty shaken up. She's at my place, Sage said. Scared but safe. She wants to see you. Then let's go. Ryan turned to me. Thank you for protecting her when I couldn't. She protected herself. I just made sure people listened. 3 weeks went by before I heard from any of them again. Then Tabitha texted me a photo. A tiny, perfect baby boy with Ryan's eyes and his mother's stubborn chin. The note on the back read, His name is James. Just James. No middle name, no family legacy. Just him. I smiled, typing back, "He's beautiful. Congratulations to both of you." Her response came immediately. "Thank you. For everything. We're naming you as his godmother if you'll have us." I stared at the message, tears blurring my vision. From the ashes of Wade's lies, something good had grown after all. "I'd be honored," I typed back. That evening, I sat down at my computer and began to write. How I discovered my husband's fertility lie and watched his perfect life crumble. The story poured out of me. Every detail, every revelation, every moment of pain and triumph. When I finished, I posted it anonymously on Reddit, then sat back and waited. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Thousands of comments, shares, messages of support. Women sharing their own stories of gaslighting and betrayal. Men apologizing for the behavior of my ex-husband. But the message that meant the most came from an unexpected source. "Carson, Robin, I saw your story online. The whole town's talking about it. I want you to know that you did the right thing. Wade's moved to another state, and good riddance. The house is yours, free and clear. Consider it payment for 3 years of hell. You're a stronger woman than any of us deserved. Carson." I closed my laptop and looked around the house that was finally, truly mine. Wade's pictures were gone, his clothes donated, his lies swept away like dust. For the first time in years, I felt free. And that was worth more than any revenge could ever be.